Welcome back to the Pesky Report. This is episode 520 of the Pesky Report, brought to you by Beyond the Monster. My name is Derek, and I'm here with Jake and Hunter, as always, for the minor league show. But today's a very special episode here. We have the Red Sox Senior Director of Player Development, Brian Abraham, joining us. So first things first, thank you, Brian, for joining us. We are very excited to have you on, and we are very thankful for your time.
No, guys, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
As always, this tradition here, I will be handing it off to Jake first. So, Jake, the floor is yours for the first question.
All right. Thank you, Derek. And Brian, thanks again so much for your time, for being here and joining us this week. I wanted to ask you to start out, and just to give folks a little bit of an understanding about Brian. He's been with the Red Sox for quite a few years at this point. His sort of introduction to the organization, working for the organization, was as the bullpen catcher for the 2013 World Champion Red Sox, in which he would, I'm sure, caught quite a few bullpens of current Red Sox Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow. But Brian then kind of did that. I think you did that for like 2 years, right? And then you
Yes.
went into the sort of the player development side of things and worked your way up into this position. Since 2013, there's been a lot of turnover in the Red Sox organization. There's been a lot of turnover just in the last couple of years. But you've stuck around. You've been here for a while. You're one of these people that has had continuity in the organization. And I guess my question is, like, what do you attribute that to? Like, I think there are people that have been successful in the Red Sox organization that have kind of moved on and done other things, or they've left either of their own volition or not of their own volition. To what do you attribute your staying power in the Red Sox organization?
Yeah, good question. I think I ask myself the same question at times. I think it's about building relationships. The role itself, or player development itself, lends to needing to have a versatility and personality, dealing with different people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different experiences. My time in a major league clubhouse, I think, definitely prepared me for that. Understanding that you got to meet new people, you got to meet them where they are. You got to be open-minded about what they believe, what you believe, and then work towards a commonality to achieve the goals of whatever you're working toward. And I think one of the things that I learned very much at a young age was whatever you're working for, whatever team you're on, whatever organization you are a part of, is put that first. And I think I very much have had the Red Sox be front of mind for me in terms of doing whatever I can that day to help the organization. I know it kind of sounds a little bit corny, but I think we can all get caught up in our own success and where we want to go and how we want to do things. But I very much have put, when I work for the Blue Jays, the same way, very much put the organization first, and everything I do on a daily basis, on the micro, on the macro, is for that. And hopefully when those things work hand in hand with your beliefs, your goals, that allows for personal success as well. But I think it's building relationships, building trust, working incredibly hard, obviously, and focusing on the task at hand and what you can control. And again, at the end of the day, putting the organization first in hopes that the people above you, the people that are guiding you and making decisions about your future, have your best interest in mind. And, there's a lot of things we can't control in this game, for sure. I don't think the volatility of an office member probably is spoken about enough within baseball. The reality is, I'm from Massachusetts, I'm from Worcester, and I get to work for the hometown team, and I hope to do that for a really long time. But as you said, there are a lot of other people that have been a part of this organization over the years that have moved on for good reason, but also moved on not by their own choice, and they have to move to other teams. So my wife and I joke, she's from Toronto, I'm from the Red Sox, so we're hoping this one lasts for a long time because our family's in those two places. But incredibly lucky to be a part of an organization that very much cares about the people that work there. And, again, can only control what I can control, focus on my job, focus on my role, and hope that will help the organization, allow me a chance to continue my success here. But, it's certainly a challenge, but, again, organization first, building relationships, taking care of other people, and hopefully those things will fall into place.
So over the course of now, this is the end of we're kind of nearing the end of the second year of Breslow being in charge. I guess like other than I think what is clearly obvious, which was that there was more of an emphasis on how the organization develops pitching. But do you feel like the organization, at least from your standpoint, is now kind of like we're kind of off and running in terms of what Breslow and some of the other folks that have come in? We've talked about Justin Willard as the pitching director, but also other folks. Like, do you feel like that maybe there was with a new CBO in place, maybe there was some changes, some disruption, I guess you could say, to the way that things worked in the organization? Would you say that now things are running maybe more smoothly at this point, or are there still things that are being worked through? I'm just curious your take on where things.
Yeah, I mean, I think with new leadership, there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be changes in different capacities. Obviously, I think within player development specifically over the past few years, especially I would say since I've been farm director, we've really done a deep dive into how we do things, what we believe in, and how we want to be seen internally and externally as a player development group. And that takes tough decisions, that takes alignment, that takes challenging the norms of maybe what we've done in the past that maybe has led to success, but has had to evolve and change over time because the game is different, players are different, and the information that we currently utilize is different. So, I don't think we're ever happy with where we are. Are we, excited about some of the successes, about the improvements and moving in the right direction? Certainly. But I think if you want to be a really successful organization over the years, you have to constantly evolve, constantly challenge what you're currently doing, ask questions, and making sure that everyone within not only player development, but baseball operations is aligned with the goal of winning a World Series and being a sustainable organization from year to year. I can speak on, specifically for player development, we are very much more aware of what we believe in, what each sub-department believes in, what they're driving in terms of development, what our goals are for players, and putting all of our resources and our people together to work towards those with our players on the ground. So it's a cohesive effort for sure. And I think new ideas, new faces, people from other organizations always allow the opportunity to better look at what we've done and how we do things to maybe change those things. So whether it be Justin Willard, Jason Ochart, Andrew Wright, different people like that have come in and help push some of the good things that we've done, but also change some of the things that maybe we thought we were doing well to a better way of doing them. And again, I can't speak enough about alignment. That is incredibly important in all the areas that we push forward in. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to challenge each other on players and how we evaluate things and how we see things. But at the end of the day, if we believe in our organizational standards and our organizational benchmarks for each individual area, we're going to get to the right spot as time progresses. So again, happy with where we are, but I don't think we're ever happy with with where we are, because we're always trying to be better.
Something that interests me is your work week, basically. Like, I met you when I went to a game in Worcester, and then we had Maximus Martin on 2 weeks later, and he was saying how when he was in Greenville at the time, and he said when he was in Salem the week before that you were there. So I'm curious, like, how often are you moving around? How busy is your schedule? Do you tend to go to multiple minor league parks in a week? How often are you flying or driving down to Greenville, Salem? Do you usually stick around in Worcester, with that being where you're from? How does that all work?
Yeah, well, as you can see, I'm in a hotel room. I'm in Fort Myers now. There's a lot of travel. I think that has kind of changed throughout the years as we've kind of been a little bit more efficient and effective with when we need to go places and how long we need to go places. I travel to every affiliate from the DR to Worcester pretty consistently throughout the season. Try to plan ahead of time, but there are also one-offs where there might be player movement or there might be staff conversations that need to be had. So those can be adjusted. I would say, anywhere between 2 to 4 days at a time. I'll go to an affiliate. Very lucky that Worcester is, 20 minutes from my house. So I tend to go there probably a little bit more than the other places, just because one, it's our closest spot to the big leagues. And, there's a lot of guys that are there that are generally really important, especially the last couple of years. And then, Portland is about a 2-hour drive. So we're really lucky to have affiliates that are pretty easy to get to on the East Coast. Fort Myers, obviously being our home base, whether we have rehabbers here, whether we have the first year players here from the draft, is a part of it. Then the academy down in the Dominican, go there, a few times, give or take throughout the season to make sure that our staff is in a good spot, make sure our players are in a good spot, just to interact really and converse and be around. And sometimes it's as simple as just having some basic conversation with staff and players about where they are personally, professionally. And other times it's to really watch different brands of baseball as well. Going to an affiliate isn't just going for the game. It's a lot about what happens before the game. It's the work that's being done out in the field. It's the pregame. It's the time in the weight room, the time with all of our support staff, the strength group, the medical group, our mental skills group, and then obviously the coaches as well. So I feel like I travel a good amount. My wife says I'm traveling all the time. I don't know if that's the case, but it's certainly the nature of the job and the nature of our jobs in PD. We move around, and I really think the face-to-face interactions is what makes this department and part of baseball so special. And that the only way you're able to do that is if you travel around. So certainly busy, but I try to balance that with my time at home with my 2 kids, my wife, and my family. And I think lucky enough that my son's at an age where I get to bring him to Worcester and bring him to Portland, do things like that. So balancing all those things is obviously important, but yeah, a good amount of travel throughout the season.
I'm going to handicap your answer here because I'm going to say you can't count Worcester or Portland just because they're a little bit too close to you. So I feel like that would be the answer. So out of the other ones, Salem, Fort Myers, Greenville, the Dominican Republic, is there a spot you particularly enjoy going to the most, whether it's going to the Dominican Republic to be in the Dominican Republic, or Greenville for everybody always talks about how great the area is, or if there's even just like a facility you really like, or maybe it's just more fun to see the guys in the DR who aren't as close to the majors yet. Is there a specific spot you like? And if so, reasoning?
I don't know if I'm at liberty to say what is my favorite. I think they all have different pros. I'd say Greenville, beautiful area. I mean, if you haven't been in Greenville, South Carolina, I would recommend it. I mean, the city is beautiful. There's a lot of great places to eat. The ballpark's right downtown. It's a mini Fenway. It's gorgeous. Salem, I think it's a great opportunity to go to a place where guys are experiencing full season affiliated ball for the first time. So it's a lot of our younger players that are being challenged, that are being pushed. The workload there is very similar to what we do at the complex. So there's a ton of baseball activity, a ton of learning, a ton of growing that happens there. Fort Myers, obviously our home base. We have some rovers that live here, some coordinators that live here that we get to spend extra amount of time with. Medical is based here, strength is based here, along with rehabbers that are from AAA all the way down to big leagues all the way down to rookie ball. So get to see them. And then Dominican in itself is such a unique experience. I think going there gives me incredible perspective on life and what a lot of our young international players go through to live out their dreams. We stay in the city in Santo Domingo and we go to the academy. We're not, there are places like this in Santo Domingo, but we're not staying at a beach resort. It is going through a real third world country that people are struggling incredibly hard to make a living in a life and be the best they can be for their families. And going down to the Dominican and being a part of an academy with kids that are trying to fulfill their dreams for themselves and their families is pretty special. So I always enjoy going down there. The food is great at the academy. They treat the players great. It's a very pure baseball feeling. It's, the grassroots of baseball. And I think it gives me a great perspective on not only baseball, but life in general.
Is the academy just the Red Sox, or is it one of those things where there's maybe like in the same area, kind of like Fort Myers, where there's a couple teams all in the same section?
All the teams are, I'd say, relatively close, but the Red Sox have their own academy. The Guardians are very close. The Brewers are close, but there's a bunch of teams that are relatively close. I think the furthest team is maybe a 2+ hour drive, but all the teams, when they play during the DSL season, they're bus rides. Again, some a little bit further than others, but there's a couple teams that share a space, but the Red Sox have their own academy. It's been done over the past few years, and they've done an amazing job. And they live there too, so it's important for it to be comfortable, have places to work out, have places to live, and spend the non-baseball time there. But it's all relatively close to each other, so they can play each other throughout the DSL season.
In terms of kind of digging a little bit into the actual player development side of things, it's the last couple of years, or at least especially this year, it feels like there's been a lot of reports about the Red Sox and the core four in terms of hitting development. And when you look at the core four and you just kind of look and you just see, bat speed, bat to ball skills, swing decisions, and ball flight, they all sound relatively simple, right? Just on surface value, they sound relatively simple. But everyone kind of accommodates a lot of those things to do with modern analytics, even though they sound surface level very simple. What has been the shift in the organization the last few years, with us also too, with a lot of people coming in from driveline or analytics kind of facilities? What has that been like the last couple of years with the change? And I guess you could say the last 5 or 6 years, from Dombrowski to Bloom to now Breslow. What has that change been like in terms of the analytics side of things, with how that affects player development, but also too taking ideas that, like I said, on the surface sound very simple, but really digging into them and kind of pushing them, I guess, to the maximum?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak on my time as farm director and people I've hired. I mean, we've used analytics for years and information for years. It's making more informed decisions with the numbers and information we have. It's making better bets at the end of the day. If you can make a decision because you have better information, then you're going to want to make that. In terms of just driveline or external hires, I think we're trying to find good coaches that are open-minded, have good ideas, will challenge what maybe traditional baseball says is the right way of doing things, and maybe finding a better way of doing things. I think all of these guys that we've hired, whether they are considered baseball guys or not, they're all coaches. They all build relationships with players and interact with players, have a strong understanding of foundational fundamentals when it comes to hitting or defense or pitching, but also understand how to utilize information, biomech, to help better make changes within the development path of a player. I think the core four are just basically things that we believe in strongly that is going to allow for sustainable success, whether it be in rookie ball or the big leagues. So if you look at big league players and you look at those four things, the best players have some pretty strong combination of the four of those different ways, or can drive that player's success. Player might have really good bat speed and can hit the ball really hard, but their swing decisions aren't as good, and they have to optimize when they hit the ball to hit the ball hard for impact and do damage when that is the case. So I think it's just us, like I said at the beginning, us taking a step back. What drives major league value? What drives player value? What can we train players to do that they can do consistently throughout their career that is really going to drive the potential for them to have success at the top level, and then kind of working backwards from there? Because at the end of the day, we don't want players to get better in just rookie ball or just A ball or just double A. It's about success in the big leagues. And I think educating our players about that, educating them about why we're asking them to do X, Y, and Z to improve is really important. And our staff does an incredible job of that. So again, it's just basically pulling the levers that we feel like can impact a player the most during their development path. And every team has probably different ideas and different thoughts. But I think with the data and the information we have, we try to back that up and show the players this is why. And I think if you look over the years, it's pretty clear that a lot of the things that we believe in, a lot of things that we are driving lead to that success. There's not one way for a hitter to have success. It's not only bat speed. It's not only swing decisions. It's not only, pulling the ball in the air. There's a lot of different things that factor in. We want players to be able to manipulate the barrel. We want players to have a good feeling of the strike zone, swing at strikes. There's a lot of things that come into play there. So it's not as black and white as sometimes it seems, but I think if you look at our training in the cages, if you look at our work week for individual player, they are very well aware when they go into the batting cage what they're going to work on. So I think that consistency, that structure, that very clear understanding of doing work and tracking it to see if it's actually working provides a lot of value for the player in the long run.
I also want to add on to that. I've always said with our show, the best part of the minor league is getting to see someone grow from the low levels all the way to the big leagues. And we've seen people, I mean, the amount of guys who have debuted for the Red Sox this year, but the one for me that kind of caught my eye in some ways in terms of like, I guess, development path is a guy like a Yhoiker Garcia, who last year started the year in Salem and now this year debuts in the big leagues. This doesn't have to be specifically about him, but what is it like for you, someone working in player development, getting to see guys that you've worked with and just see the growth from the time they step in the organization all the way through until they reach the big leagues and even into their big league career?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the goal. Yhoiker Garcia and whether it be Payne Tolley in a short amount of time, Kristian Campbell, Marcelo, Roman, Brian Bayo, like these guys are the homegrown guys. It really shows how much of an organizational effort it takes, whether it be international scouting, whether it be amateur scouting, whether it be someone like Wilyer Bray who comes in via acquisition. It takes a lot of the organization and the organization having an idea of what player development can improve for a particular player, and getting those players and getting them into our system, getting them into our programming, and then focusing on trying to improve the spaces that we can improve upon. But there's challenges that come with each of those guys. We try to adjust what the players are working on based on their biggest needs. And the password is such a unique one because, coming out of camp not too long ago, he was, a fourth outfielder in Salem, and a ton of credit, obviously, at the end of the day goes to these players, goes to him in particular, who was always able to hit the ball hard, but improved his defense, improved his range, improved his swing decisions as he continued to progress through the levels. And really, I think at the end of the day, just did damage on pitches that he could drive in the strike zone. And that allowed for the consistency that we saw at the plate, with the understanding, hey, there's still going to be some chase but when he hits the ball, he's going to hit the ball hard. He's going to optimize his ball flight to the pull side for damage. And he's going to play an above average defense in the outfield, no matter where he plays. And because of those things, we saw him rise incredibly fast and obviously get the opportunity this year. But I don't think there's a greater feeling for us in player development than seeing a player that we have in the minor leagues go to Boston and make an impact in some capacity. Big or small, there's a lot of really good things that come about when a player goes to the big leagues. Obviously it's their dream, but it's a lot of time and effort that, for a lot of staff members that aren't on, podcasts or aren't maybe seen as much or aren't speaking to people about that spent in the minor leagues trying to help these guys, whether it be extra cage work, whether it be extra time looking at video, whether it be extra time trying to look at biomech, trying to figure out someone's swing or pitch mechanics. So it's a huge pat on the back to the people that work in player development and the other spaces that I think that touch player development when these guys make it and impact the team in Boston.
So off of that, I wanted to ask you about a debate that I'm sure that you have heard, from in the media and social media and stuff like that. And that's the question of who gets credit when a player succeeds at the big league level. And it's a very annoying conversation overall, and it's not an easy question to answer. But I think I'll just give an example of Roman Anthony. Okay. Roman Anthony is drafted by the Red Sox while Heimblum is the CBO, but also at that time, Paul Taboni was running was in charge of amateur scouting. And I'm just pulling up right now, the signing scout for him was Willie Romay. And then there's you, and then there's the managers and the coaches in the minor league level. And then, there's the player also, that kind so when you hear that, the question of who gets credit when a player succeeds at the big league level, what is your reaction to that? And what do you think is the real shortest version answer that you can give that won't take up the rest of the next 40 minutes?
Yeah, I don't think we really look at it that way. I very much believe it is an organizational effort and, building relationships with each other in the office, whether it be myself and Devin, Harrison Slutsky, Paul, whoever it is. I think those relationships are incredibly important when getting a player into the organization. It's like, to me, I look at it as like baking a cake. You have to get the right ingredients. You have to put them together. you have to make the cake and then you have to bake it. All those different things come into play to ultimately having the best cake that you could have. And I can, compare that to the other departments and areas. And, I don't think one can happen without the other. The conversations that are had, again, like I said earlier, with the amateur group, understanding like these are things that player development can help drive and improve. And then allowing us to do that, and then having different people within player development be involved as well. Same thing with acquisitions, same thing with leadership, trusting the people that are in their jobs to pick the right person or pick a player that might need some work or some improvements in some particular areas. So I truly believe it's not one group, it's not one space. Can some push the needle a little bit more than others for certain players at certain times? Definitely. But at the end of the day, it's an organizational effort. And, I don't think Roman Anthony is Roman Anthony without the help of a ton of people in this organization, in particular Roman and his family who have pushed him. But there's a lot of different people that are involved. And I think it'd be unfair to say X gets more credit than someone else. It's a really group effort. And I think that's the best organizations are built that way and run that way.
And then the other question that I have that is in that similar vein, which is, debates and things that come up, is about promotions. And I want folks to hear from you directly about the process of deciding when it's the right time for a player to move from one level to the next. Who is involved in that conversation? How high up in the organization does it go? And ultimately, I think I kind of know that like it's not a one size fits all. Like every player in every situation is different. But can you just tell the folks out there about when conversations happen about whether it's the right time to promote a player? What are those conversations? Who is involved and what goes into those discussions?
Yeah, we have a pretty consistent internal process about different things that players need to move to the next level. Very much driven by player goals and standards that we expect at each level. Our leadership, our coordinator group is involved in that, and whether it be they suggest certain times where a player moves, or myself are tracking. I say it very much depends on the player. I think the majority of those movements are. At the end of the day, I'm the final decision maker on those, but I would certainly say that some of the bigger names or higher end players, we're definitely involving Paul and Brez and making sure that our thoughts and ideas are aligned and moving players at the right time, especially as you get closer to AA and AAA. I've said before, AAA is such a unique place because we consider AAA major league depth, and if you're on that AAA roster, you could be called up to the big leagues at any time. So. Sometimes we might hold someone in AA for a little bit longer because they need to work on a few things that need to be done before there's that possibility they're called up to the big leagues. But again, I think we're very much driven by player goals. And if players are able to reach their goals, they have the opportunity to move to the next level. And sometimes if not, if the next level gives them an opportunity to continue to work toward that particular goal and be challenged, that's important as well. So at the end of the day, for player movement, AAA down, I am the final decision maker, but to say that I'm the only one making that decision is a little unfair. I'm very reliant on, the leadership group around me, the directors, Jordan Elkery, who's our manager and player development, and then just, the affiliate staff as well, who provide their support and thoughts as well. So it's not a one size fits all, but I do think we have certain indicators that allow players to kind of, I guess, ring the bell for that time. It's not necessarily at bats or innings pitched at maybe as it was in the past. I think we have better information now and better numbers that we can better utilize to help make us make better informed decisions on when a player needs to be pushed and challenged to that next level.
I'm always amazed at how many people on Twitter seem to think it's Alex Cora's decision that someone gets promoted or not. Jake kind of stole my question there, so I'm just going to expand on it a little bit. In the past, there's been like the standouts, Kristian Campbell, Roman Anthony, that did fly through the majors, but it feels like this year it's been much more aggressive with the promotions. Is that anything specific that has happened this year, or is that just more what you were just saying, how you guys just have better information now, so it's easier to recognize when certain people should move up through the system? Because I feel like this year, more than ever, there's been 4 or 5 guys maybe that have gone up multiple levels in a single season.
Yeah, I think it's a balance. I think the last couple of years we've probably been a little bit more aggressive. Again, better information, better understanding of when guys are ready and need to be challenged. I think we're looking at age now and opportunity to make an impact. Like we want guys to be able to be at their optimal age when they reach the big leagues, and you don't want a guy to be 30 when he reaches the big leagues. He's already past his window of prime ability. So there's also playing time and availability. If you have Roman, Marcelo, and Kristian Campbell, the big leagues, it's hard to promote certain guys because those guys are going to be playing every day. So I think it's a balance of all those things, but we've definitely been more aggressive, and we've definitely looked at challenging our players. I would say minor league baseball, probably the skill has transitioned a little bit, where I would say AA and AAA is a significant gap from A ball. So trying to get some of our players up to those levels to compete and be challenged maybe for a longer period of time versus performing in A ball is something we've definitely focused on. So I think it's a balance of the two.
Okay, so we were talking about promotions. I'm curious. It's just like it's a weird thing that we've seen a couple times where like Framey De Leon would go from single A to double A for 2 weeks, or Max Ferguson, Carson Simas. There's a couple guys. It tends to be guys who can play multiple positions, guys who are good defensively. But it's always like hey, Worcester needs someone for 2 weeks. And I'm just curious how those conversations go, where you kind of have to explain to the prospect, you're going to be here for 2 weeks. Like this isn't a permanent thing. You're getting sent back down, but you're also skipping multiple levels. So I don't know if that's like a vote of confidence for them. I'm just curious how that whole process goes.
Yeah. I have conversations with our managers pretty much every day, post game. Obviously we have injury reports. Obviously development is the number one goal of an organization and our staff. There is a reality of having to put 9 guys out in the field and having a roster that is usable for the manager every particular day. And sometimes that is maybe holding a guy from the field for a couple of days because he's banged up. Maybe it's an IL. Maybe it's guys not working back as quickly as they would like or we would like. So making sure we have enough coverage is really important. And there are some players in the organization that are really good minor league depth and can play multiple positions, can have good at-bats, and the level might not matter as much. So we're very, very honest and transparent with goals for our players, where we see them and where they need to improve. And sometimes there are guys that are best utilized in a minor league depth role, and the more opportunities they get because of injuries or because of guys being banged up, the more chance they have to stay within this organization. I think you mentioned a few of them. There's also players that are in that role that play really well and become everyday players and get more opportunities as they continue to progress. So those are always ones that ideally we're not doing as much, but the reality is like there are just times throughout the season. It's a long season. It's 140 plus games for each affiliate that they need to have an extra body at times, or some protection for a higher end prospect that just might need a couple extra days, and maybe we don't have a middle infielder. So I think it's balancing all those things and trying to give guys the opportunity to be healthy, to perform, but also having players that we feel comfortable putting them in some situations that might not necessarily be the normal development path for them. But again, like you said, Hunter, we're very clear about what those expectations are and why they're moving, and letting them know it could be or likely short term. Same with a big league call up. There are guys that get called up for a couple of days and come right back down, and we try to be as clear as we can about what the situation is and how we're going to utilize them, because it's really important to be honest with our players.
You guys have been particularly good at targeting or zeroing in on players in trades that end up being fantastic prospects. Obviously, Yhoiker Abreu was one. This year, Yoferi Rodriguez, John Hollabetz, Yhoiker Fajardo in the offseason. What are you guys looking for in these trades? Like, just because like the Yhoiker Fajardo trade, for example, is a DSL guy, not really like a top 30 guy. I think for the White Sox, he might have been in their top 30, but that is such a minor trade in the big picture at the time. A 30-year-old left-handed reliever for this guy extremely far away from the majors. So I'm just curious what that process is and what exactly you guys are looking for when going after these smaller trades.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think we're looking at talent that can be developed and provide value at the highest level. It's really comes down to the acquisition group working with the player development group, and finding players that we feel like we can continue to mold and improve. And, the hope is that they might have a baseline skill set or ability that if they get into our programming, if they get into our system, we can maybe adjust, whether it be certain pitch types or whether it be adding velo or strength or bat speed or whatever it may be. And if we get them into our system, into our programming, we'll be able to help improve some of the areas that they are maybe lacking from where they currently stand. So I think at the end of the day, we're trying to find just overall talent, but I think there are definitely some qualities that we feel like we can develop and improve upon more so than others. So if a player might be maybe valued a little bit less from an industry standpoint, and we see some spaces that we feel like we can improve upon because we're really good at developing those areas, we might be more willing to take a chance on that particular player because we feel like we can help improve some of those attributes. So it's a really collaborative effort between different departments, whether it be through the objective information we have, whether it be through video. There's a lot of different things that come into play, but at the end of the day, we want to try to bring in good players and help them be better. So I would say, going back to like some of the conversations we had earlier, it's very collaborative, very, very interactive between departments, and making sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what we feel like we can improve when it comes to development of a player.
And then I do want to zero in on Yhoiker Fajardo there. Obviously, he's been absolutely phenomenal this year. Put up fantastic numbers in single A. He wasn't walking a lot of people. The strikeouts were improving as the season went on. What is the organizational view of him been? Like, how impressed have you guys been with him this year?
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. He's really intelligent. He's been able to really retain information and take some of the things that we've asked him to do and put them into gameplay right away, which is probably one of the more difficult things to do as a player. It's great to do things in training. It's great to do things in the bullpen or in the cages, and then transition those over to gameplay. We actually see real performance, and he's been able to do that. We got him early enough in the offseason where he was able to put on some good weight and get some good strength added. We saw the fastball velo jump and the physicality improve in a short amount of time. And again, just a ton of credit to the pitching staff and down here in the FCL, and then in Salem, by just continuing to monitor what he does and really maximizing his abilities. But I saw him live a couple times, just a guy who dominates the strike zone, who challenges hitters, has secondaries that can get out to the strike zone. And, incredibly exciting to get a guy like that for, like you said, a trade that really didn't seem like much of the time, but a ton of credit to the acquisition group by getting a guy we feel like we could mold and grow. And, most recently was the Carolina League Pitcher of the Month for August, which is pretty cool. I told quick funny story. I told Brez and our assistant GMs that he won, and I think Brez made the comment, well, he won Pitcher of the Week every week. I think he has to win it for the month. So good for Yhoiker, and like really excited about the player and the person we have to continue to grow with us.
We won't take any credit, but I will just mention we have a funny story with Yhoiker Fajardo, because when we were discussing the Garrett Crochet trade, Jake brought up that a lot of trades in the past had like some random, just like a throw in on the back end. And a lot of times it could be someone with like a really cool name. And we're like, why couldn't we get someone with a cool name from the White Sox? Like, and then I just went through like the DSL roster and was like, oh, Yhoiker Fajardo, that's a fun name. And then what do you know? It was like the week later, Red Sox trade for Yhoiker Fajardo.
Start throwing around some other really good players.
Yes.
We'll get right on that.
we might
Yeah, see if we can make that work.
We will. We might. Hey, we'll start throwing out names. We'll see. I do want to ask. I want to get a little bit. At least I know. I want to touch on a certain specific player. Jake and Hunter know where this is going. A couple years ago, I started the Alan Castro fan club. It started off kind of as a bit. It was like, oh, he's going to be my breakout player pick, and it was kind of a bit. But he's turned himself into, from a guy who was in low A a couple years ago to now he's been in Portland. He was just named Portland's MVP. And for a guy who only signed for $100,000 as well in 2019, what has his growth been like this year? I know last year he had a little bit of a struggle in Portland at the end of last year, but he's come back this year outside of the injury early in the year and has put together a really good year.
Yeah, I think the injuries are always tough. He's been banged up a couple times. He started this year in the IL with the hamstring, but a guy who has really all the tools that you could ask for in terms of a player. He's a plus defender. He can play all 3 outfield spots. He can put the bat on the ball. He can run a little bit. He can hit for power, switch hitter. He does a lot of things incredibly well. I think the biggest thing for him is just doing it all together. We see flashes of the player that he can be, and you see a couple of games, you're like, wow, this guy is a superstar. And then there are other times where it's maybe a little bit more inconsistent, but the swing decisions have been great. His ability to impact the baseball have been great. Would love to see him impact the ball a little more for power. I think that's kind of one of the things that we haven't seen as much as we would like, just with the size and the strength that he has. But I think a lot of the other things he's done really, really well for us. And, obviously tough decisions in the offseason with the Rule 5 process, but very pleased with his development path, and he continues to get better. And I agree, like he's probably someone who gets a little bit underlooked with some of the outfield depth that we've had, and kind of Garcia really jumping on the scene. But this guy any given night can change the game and be an impactful bat in the middle of the order for a team. So I'm really pleased with his growth and development. Want to see him continue to push in all those areas, but really excited about what he did this year. And I think there's still a lot of opportunity to get better, which is always a good thing when you're in the minor leagues. Like, you want the opportunity to get better because that is going to allow him to have the success that we all hope he can have.
I want to make sure that we ask you about Kristian Campbell, Brian. Kristian obviously was this sort of rocket ship story going through the minor leagues, and makes the big league team out of spring training, signs a major league contract, has an amazing month of April. And then things just kind of, got worse for him over the course of the next couple of months at the big league level. And the team, obviously, I'm sure it was a hard decision to option him back to Worcester. And I want to ask you, it's a kind of a multi-part question. It's sort of what have you guys seen from him since he's been down in Worcester in terms of like things that he's improved on, or maybe also things that he needs to continue to work on? What are the goals for him in terms of defense, and where it's and where both he and the organization, where you want him to focus, and then how has he taken what's happened with him this year?
Yeah, an incredible story, I think, just about where the kid came from and where he started this year. And, we very much believe in Kristian and his talent and his ability, and no doubt, whether it be this year or in the future, he's going to be a hugely impactful player for us at the major league level. I think sometimes we, just as an industry, underestimate the difficulties of being a major leaguer day in and day out, whether it be on the offensive side or the defensive side. There are a ton of really good players in this league, and having to make adjustments and changes personally is always a difficult part of that, along with being a first-year player, along with playing a couple different positions in the big leagues after only being in pro ball for one really full season. So, we threw a lot at him, and we saw a ton of success and a ton of the reasons why we gave him a big contract and feel like he can impact this organization for a long time. I think some of the thing, when he got out of sorts a little bit, the league found some of the weaknesses in his swing and challenged him a little bit more. And, I think it just kind of went that, it piled up on him, and he really had trouble kind of getting himself out of that. And it was a struggle with his routine, struggle with consistency. And I think taking a breather and getting him back down to AAA was the right move for him and for us to really get back to his training, get back to what works for him, getting back to a little bit more consistency and comfort. The reality is, like, AAA obviously is difficult, but we have a lot more ability to control the training environments, the work that's happening pregame, a lot of those things that when you're in the big leagues, they're a little bit harder because you're focused on trying to win every day. And there's obviously a lot of different players that have their needs. So getting him down to AAA, again, I think a lot of the focus was the things that he had done previously, which was, swing decisions and hitting the ball hard. I would say those are the two things that it came down to. His K rate was a little bit higher, was higher than it was in the big leagues than it ever had been last year in the minor leagues. He wasn't hitting the ball as consistently hard. I think especially to the pull side, where he does the most damage. We saw him late on a lot of pitches, and that was him trying to protect the plate. So, pulling the ball is something we really like our players to do because we feel like that's where the most damage can be done. That's not to say we don't want a player to drive the ball the other way for power or with 2 strikes, hit a ball in the 5-6 hole, the 3-4 hole to get on base. Like those things are all really valuable of being a hitter. But I would say the majority of the time, the most impact is done pull side in the air. And I think Kristian got to a point where he was protecting versus attacking, and that was something we've really focused on down in Worcester. Defensively, certainly. I was, admittedly, like a lot has been thrown at him. He's playing second base, he's playing the outfield, then we asked him to play first base. It's really hard because you obviously want what is best for the player, but you also need to do what is best for the team and the organization. So we kept him getting reps at first base. He has that a part of his tool belt now. As you saw, or maybe you guys saw, he played some right field yesterday, which he hadn't really done because the reality is Roman Anthony's down and we need to be prepared. So I think I'd be lying to say we haven't moved him around probably more than we would have liked. Some of that is for Kristian's needs and some of that is for the organization's need. But I would say we can do those things. I think when the player is open-minded and accepting of it and wants to do it, I think, he hasn't probably, we don't see him as much now that he's in AAA, but this is a kid who wants everything that is thrown at him. And while he's dealt with adversity, has really embraced it. And I think will continue to thrive on it. Is incredibly excited to get an opportunity to go back up there. So, I don't think there's ever been a chance where he's not accepted a challenge. I think moving forward, it's really hard to say what it will look like for him, defensively. I think first base at this point was probably more of like an immediate trial to see if that could work. That probably will end up not being as much of a focus moving forward. I see it more being a second base outfield type opportunity. He was a plus defender for us last year in the minor leagues as a second baseman. And there's a physical side of that. There's a mental side of that there were some struggles, but there's no doubt in my mind that he can get back to a defender that can be a big league defender at second base. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. But I truly believe that he will be able to. And then I think the outfield allows for his athleticism, his speed, his range. There's a little bit more of a natural ability that occurs out there, which I think is just like riding a bike for him. He can go out there and make some really good defensive plays and use his instincts to make the plays he needs. So hopefully that answers your question. We love the versatility of players, but I do think there's a time when that versatility can be a detriment. And finding out where that line is obviously on us to figure out. And I do think like the balance of the offensive struggles, the defensive struggles kind of went hand in hand at times for him, and getting him back down to AAA where he can slow things down, take a deep breath, I think has allowed for him to be a guy who's continued to improve in Worcester. And it's funny, like definitely not the player that he was last year, but if you really break down his numbers and look at him, like he's still having an incredible year. I think our expectations for him are just so high, which is great. But relative to a lot of other players, he's still, I think, OPSing close to 850, hitting the ball not as hard as he was, but it's getting better. It's getting more consistent. His swing decisions are getting better. His K rate has dropped. His walk rate has increased. Those are things that we're looking for. And again, I think we have some information that shows us that there's been improvement. It hasn't happened all at once. It's taken a little bit longer than we would have liked, but it's happening. And at some point, he's going to eventually help our major league team, and we're excited for him to do so.
Obviously the draft came and went, and when you guys drafted Marcus Phillips, I had someone reach out to me almost immediately, and they were like, everyone loves this guy. This is such a awesome person. You have to reach out to him. I'm curious because I feel like I've really only heard fantastic things. There was the reports that apparently there were reports before the draft, even you guys were heavily linked to Marcus Phillips. So I'm just curious what you guys saw in Marcus Phillips. Obviously, he throws very hard and everything, fantastic. But what was that process like? How committed were you guys to Marcus Phillips? And is it true that it just seems everybody in the organization absolutely loves the kid?
Yeah, I can answer the last part first. Certainly been around him a little bit. The answer is yes. We came up to saw him obviously at our draft camp we had for a week down here in Fort Myers. He came out to Boston to be on the field and introduce himself to some of the players and coaches along with some of the other draft picks. Had dinner with him there and obviously spending some time with him down here now. Incredible kid. Really good work ethic. Big boy. that is going to have power stuff. And, I think, I don't want to speak too much on the amateur side, but I know they have a process in place to putting their list of players on their draft board. And generally it's best player available. And, I think there are always probably some guys that Devin and his group have circled as saying like, hey, hope this guy falls to us, or hope we're able to go get this guy. And, I just know afterwards, like he laughed because I think a lot of the mocks had him coming to us, and we certainly liked him, but I don't think it always happens that way where the mocks are that accurate or that consistent with, especially I think the pick where he was. So yeah, we're super excited to get a kid like this. The physicality hasn't honestly even been pitching that long, which I think is another, I think of like Peyton, a guy who's able to develop even quicker because he's learning so much as he becomes more of a just true pitcher. So really excited to get a kid like this and feel like he can jump and move fast throughout the system. And we've already seen some obviously a big kid, but we've already seen physical gains in the short amount of time he's been down here in Fort Myers, and he'll spend the offseason here. And super excited to get an arm like this as part of the organization.
And I would be very disappointed if we didn't bring up Justin Gonzales. Massive human being, hits the ball incredibly hard. The only weakness that I feel like ever gets pointed out is just he's hitting the ball on the ground a little bit too much. Has that been a focus for you guys this year? And then I'm also curious about his positioning, just because he played mainly first base last year and then he hasn't touched the position this year. Is that a long-term thing? Is that something where it's just, it gives him more value as a prospect, having him as an outfielder? I'm interested what the thought process is behind that.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. We'd love to see him hit the ball in the air a little bit more. Granted, 110 mile per hour groundouts tend to get through the hole. If those are in the air, they are extra base hits and over the fence oftentimes. So he's getting there. He's made some really good improvements. I know you guys know this, but going from the DSL to low A is a pretty significant jump. And, finishing up in high A, like that's pretty amazing to see the progress he's made. And what I've been really pleased about is the swing decisions and the bat to ball. I think those things tend to be inflated or somewhat. The numbers in the DSL are a little bit harder to rationalize because the strike zones are huge. The pitching is very inconsistent. So a guy who had such good strike zone control or zone control and bat to ball in the DSL doesn't always translate as well stateside. And we've seen that stay consistent as he's come over here. But yeah, I think like hitting the ball in the air more is the key here. He hits the ball very, very hard. We like to use expected numbers and expected stats to give our players a better feel for how they're doing, because the reality is a hit isn't always just a hit, and out isn't always just an out. And when we're trying to drive our training and have guys work on something, giving them an understanding that things are working or progressing in the right direction, maybe that might not be as clear to the naked eye is really, really important. Justin's a really good example of that. I think at the start of the year, his numbers on the surface weren't as strong, but it's like, hey, the training is working. Look at your expected numbers in a lot of different spaces and you're crushing it. You're doing incredibly well. You're leading the organization in a lot of different areas. What we need you to do is hit the ball a little more in the air, and we're going to see more success. And that is what has happened. And he obviously earned himself a promotion. In terms of the defense, I think we see him as a corner outfielder. First base is something he can do. And we did have him take some ground balls there towards the end of the season in Salem and Greenville, just as a guy who could play over there. I don't want to say this is an organizational philosophy, but I think, first base, it's a really hard position to kind of pigeonhole someone into, because you have to hit for a ton of power. You have to be a pretty good defender, and to just push someone into that spot seems like it doesn't make the most sense, which is why a lot of our guys play first and third, first and corner outfield. And I think with Justin, we just feel like if there's a time where he needs to go back to first for whatever reason, he'll be able to do so because he's done it before. So, we had him play some center field. That didn't work out as well as we would have liked, but corner outfield, he's done a really good job. And he continues to improve his range and his first step quickness to allow himself to be a guy that can get outs. And, again, just a pretty amazing development path so far to see where he is now compared to the start of the year, and very excited about what he has in front of him.
I do want to you did talk about just a little bit, kind of like looking at expected numbers. And I've said this a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about Franklin Arias because a couple weeks ago I mentioned that sometimes it feels like he's almost too good at making contact with the ball. Sometimes the bat to ball skills are almost too good, where if it's like sometimes it's like he'll hit a pitch and it's like, okay, you have no business hitting that. And it's like, or an example I've also used in the past is like Cedar Rafaela, where he'll swing at something that's on the edge of the strike zone and he'll get like a single off of it. But also in the back of your head, it's, if he lays off that one, maybe he gets a pitch down the middle he can crush. We've seen with Arias lately, though, he's started drawing a lot more walks as of late, and it feels like he's very much been focused on kind of pitch selection. Has that been a focus for him as of late? And obviously now with his late season promotion to Portland, has that really been a focus for him?
Yeah, it has. I don't want to compare him to Sedin because I think they're different players, but I do think the bat to ball thing is that, Blaze Jordan actually did that as well. Just really good bat to ball skills. So they had a knack for hitting the baseball. So when they swung, they made contact. And if you're not swinging pitches in the zone, that tends to lead to less impactful contact. And that's why we have the core 4, not just the core 3 or the core 2. So making sure the swing decisions have improved was something that was something really important. But I think Franklin has improved. He's improved his body, his size, his strength. Like that to me is that to me is what is going to dictate how good of a player this kid can be. He's improved in all areas. He's hit the ball harder. He's improved his range and his defense abilities up the middle. If this kid can get bigger, stronger, continue to develop, we're going to, I don't know exactly what that ceiling is, but it's pretty darn high. So, well deserving of a promotion. I think, again, it's not always as straightforward as just the baseball card numbers or maybe some of the numbers that are floated around. I think it's a balance of the numbers that you see on the surface, the numbers beneath the surface, and then I think the goals that we have individually for a player. Like if we have a guy who we want to improve their bat speed, we want to improve their range, and they are progressing and reaching those goals, like that means they're ready for that next challenge or opportunity. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but I think Franklin reached that point where there's a strong possibility he starts in AA next season. He had a really solid start to the year this year and then did really well in Greenville and wanted to challenge him at the next level to get a taste of it and be around some players that he could be playing with next year. So really pleased with his development, a very, very intelligent kid, which lends to improvements in all phases of the game. And I'm very excited about where he is. And he's only 19 years old. So there's going to be some ups and downs with all these guys, right? These guys are kids and we have such high expectations and want them to be consistent. I always think about like when I was 18, 19 years old, like I could barely make my bed, never mind, have a consistent workout routine and be prepared to play against, 22 plus year olds every day. And also be considered a top 100 prospect and have to deal with those expectations as well. So such an exciting player that can impact the game in so many different phases. And I think he's just continuing to learn who he is and how he can be impactful. That's the other thing. It's like, what type of player what type of player can I be? What type of player can he be? And, he's been working on that. And I think he's getting a better feel for who he is as the season progresses.
So we know that we're getting up close to time here, Brian. We really appreciate your time. I wanted to make sure we asked you about this. A few weeks ago, Justin Garcia made his big league debut in New York, and you guys allowed his brother, Johan Fran, to go to New York to watch his debut. I know that, every game is critical for these guys, and, a guy like Johan Fran who's missed a lot of time with injury, I'm sure that there was, I'm just curious about that decision. Obviously it was wonderful as a fan to get to see that Johan Fran that you guys had allowed him, that he had an excused absence to go. What was that conversation like? And just curious about how that all happened and that all came together.
Yeah. Something that we had talked about the possibility and wasn't exactly sure when the call-up would happen. But when it did, Johan Fran actually reached out to me and asked about going. And my immediate thought was like, of course, let's make this happen. So talked to Liam Carroll, the manager, just to make sure like we weren't taken away from the roster or the playing that day. Just, I think the bigger picture, it was just like, let's think bigger picture here. He doesn't have family that's stateside. Johan Fran's basically the only guy who's been able to go there. It's his brother. I mean, how special is that to go to Yankee Stadium and see his brother's debut? So reach out to Eddie Romero just to make sure that we're all on the same page here and spoke to Brez. And I think we're all, in agreement that this was something that we really had to do for the Garcias and as an organization. Like, who are we? What do we believe? And to say that we are very focused on family and the care of players, and to not allow that to happen, I think would be disingenuous. So we made sure that he was able to fly up there, stay in the hotel, and got him to a couple games and then flew him back. And pretty amazing experience, I think, for both of them, and something hopefully they'll never forget. And lucky enough for us to be able to make that a reality. So pretty cool to see him on TV, and hopefully one day Johan and Fran will be doing that, and Jas Nixon will be in the dugout watching. So pretty cool.
I just have one last question for you that I have a feeling you're going to have a short answer for anyway, which is why I waited for the end. Is there a specific player or players in the system that you really have like fallen in love with, someone that you've taken a special interest in? I'd assume it would probably be someone maybe not talked about as much, but my gut feeling is that you'll give me you are a fan of all the players and everything, but I'm just curious if there's someone that for whatever reason you've bonded with or caught your eye.
I am a fan of all the players, and I want them all to do well. It's hard to not like always be intrigued by the guys from the Northeast and the guys that maybe come from Massachusetts, like to not, Jack Winay, he played for my brother, travel ball. So like small things like that might not affect me directly are always pretty cool. And I think the same is for players on opposing teams. You always have your interest peaked when you see, a Thomas White who pitched locally, and now he's like a top left-handed pitching prospect. Any of these guys, Matt Shaw, who played at Worcester Academy, like it's always cool to see Northeast guys do well, and you want them to have success. So I would say for us organizationally, like I try to really be as personable as I can, because I think the game is very data driven. It should be. We use a lot of numbers and information decisions based on that. But the reason I love player development is because it's very human driven, very relationship driven, and getting to know players on obviously a baseball level about who they are, but on a personal level is really, really important to me. And I think really important for me, not only with players, but coaches as well. So it's hard to put one player ahead of another. To see their success, I think, allows for all of us to have success. I think that at the end of the day, trying to explain to players like, hey, if you guys do good, that's good for all of us. That's I think really important to remember. So anything that we ask, anything that we're pushing is because we want you to do well, because we believe that is the best thing for your career. It might not seem like that in the immediate future or today, but long term, to push through struggles or the challenges to have the success that you want at the big level, this is what we're asking. So yeah, I love all of our players, but I say like there's always a little bit of a bias towards our Northeast or New England guys. I feel like they don't get enough credit ever, and probably never will. But I will continue to be on the forefront of pushing New England players, because that's where I'm from, and that's where I appreciate being from.
I will just wrap up with not a question, more of a statement. If there's anyone who needs a little bit of a boost, we have a thing called the Pesky Report Bump. Apparently, whenever players come on our show, for whatever reason, they always play well after, like the week or two after. So I'm just throwing it out there. If anyone needs a little boost or whatever, we were more than welcoming. But no,
does that mean I'm getting promoted in the office? I'm going to have a good performance.
Maybe.
Hopefully, that would be good. That'd be great.
Maybe. We thank you for your time very much. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just really appreciate you guys. I don't follow every minor league podcast, but I would just say, generally speaking, you guys, Sox prospects, like I very, very much appreciate the work that is being done and the care for our players and the exposure, all those things. I think whether it be on podcasts, interviews, like that's really good for them as well, not only to get their name out, but just experience as they progress throughout the minor league system. So one day when they're doing that in front of thousands of people, more thousands of people than you guys have watching, like it's really good experience. So I know just from my job, the energy and the time it takes and the passion I have. So very much appreciate that coming from you guys, and always here to support the Red Sox. And it comes from a really cool place, and I very much appreciate that.
Well, like I said, we very much thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
We don't want to hold you too long, so we will let you go. Jake, Hunter, and I will be back right after this small break that we're taking. You guys won't have a break listening for a regular minor league show. But once again, thank you, Brian, for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, it didn't. Nice.
Yeah, we're back. We
Right.
yeah, no more technical difficulties this time. We're back for the regularly scheduled minor league portion of this episode. Once again, we will thank Brian Abraham for his time, obviously. We had to pause a little bit earlier in the show, and our intro just decided to just hop back in for a second time. So that's kind of fun. This time it didn't, though. So no more. I guess we're free of technical issues. We're going to start, though, in Greenville. Greenville and Salem, both now their seasons are complete. I'm going to start in Greenville. I'll hand it over to Jake. Where do you want to start with Greenville? I actually don't care. Hitting, pitching, where do you want to start?
I mean, yeah, a good season for Greenville. They came, other than the DSL Red Sox, they came the closest to making the playoffs of any of the affiliates. Or they did come the close of, like, the non-short season leagues. Like they had kind of a late playoff push. We talked to Maximus Martin about that a little bit. But they came up just short. They finished, I think, 2 games out of the second half for their division in the South Atlantic League. So good season for them. But obviously coming up like a little bit short. And yeah, they made a push later in the season. I'll just say, like, Salem didn't make the playoffs, and Portland and Worcester are not going to be making the playoffs either. So, so that is just there will be no extra games this year for those teams. I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I had my names here, and I have to grab them. We can talk about the on the hitting side. It was a really impressive last week of the season for some of the new draftees. I mentioned Maximus Martin. So not a lot of power this week across Greenville. The only home run this week was hit by Nazan Zanatello. There were no other home runs this week. But it was a good week overall for, like I said, some of the new draftees. Some of these guys have been in Greenville for a little while, some of them not for very long. But Mason White, 8 for 23 this week with 4 runs scored. He did have 3 runs batted in. He also stole a base. He had a 400 on base percentage for the week. And I think, like, one of the knocks on him, Mason White, was just the amount of swing and miss in his game when he was drafted. And this week, pretty good. Again, a 400 on base for the week. Henry Godbout was 5 for 18 this week. He did have 2 doubles. He had 3 runs batted in as well. He had more walks than strikeouts, 3 walks to 2 strikeouts, and the one stolen base. And then friend of the show, Maximus Martin, went 5 for 16 with 2 runs scored. He had 3 doubles this week, 5 runs batted in. He did have 6 strikeouts, but again, the 313 average for the week. So I think, like, one thing to be really impressed with overall is with the Red Sox, excuse me, with the minor league teams these last few weeks. I think both in Greenville and Salem, I think that the new draftees hitters have been pretty impressive in one respect or another. And we'll talk about more of those guys when we talk about Salem. But I think that for the Red Sox sort of being in desperate need of adding talent to the system in terms of hitters, because of the fact that they didn't really draft a lot of hitters the last couple of years, I think that it doesn't seem like really, it seems like most guys acquitted themselves pretty well. Even a guy like, we'll talk about this with Salem, like a guy like Skylar White, who looks like he is a really good defensive outfielder. Like, most of these guys hit pretty well. Most of these guys look like they acquitted themselves pretty well in the field. So positive, like, start. So that was what kind of stood out to me, at least on the hitting side with Greenville this week, was those new draftees finishing their season strong.
Something I think very apparent with Mason White is the very aggressive leg kick. I'm intrigued to see if that's something that they, I don't want to say work on, because a big leg kick isn't always a terrible thing, especially if that's just how he hits. But I'm interested to see if he comes into next season with not as pronounced of a leg kick. Maybe that's something that they view as a way to cut down on the swing and miss. Maximus Martin, like you said, another good week. He played in 11 games after being promoted to high A, and he had a hit in 10 of them. That's phenomenal. It's really good to see, like, the big thing with him when he was drafted was, this is a guy with really intriguing pull power. So it's good to see him showing just a good hit tool in general, giving fans another reason to be excited about him. And they've been throwing him around. He's played short. He's played second. He's played left and right, I think. But he's played in the outfield. And he's looked good at every position. He looks really good at second base. So yeah, like you said, it's just the hitting prospects that they got in the draft all had very encouraging months in the system. They obviously, none of them had super large sample sizes, but every single one of them gave you something to be excited about. You mentioned Skylar King. We'll talk about him more when we get to single A. I don't want to harp on him too much, but there's a bunch of stuff I want to say about him. And then just a couple other guys. Andrew Musette had a good week. Zan Zanatello's home run was absurd. He hit that 1.5 miles. He's one of the more frustrating players to watch in the system because he's kind of like Miguel Blaze in the sense of you can see all of the tools at different times, and it's just like you really are hoping he can put it all together because he had a couple of he only went 3 for 16 this week, but he had a home run. He had an RBI single. He singled in the top of the 7th of a 7-inning game when the Drive were down 1, and then he stole second. Got called. Was told to go back to first because they called catcher's interference on Fraley Encarnacion. Stole second again, and then stole third and set up a Henry Godbout RBI single to tie the game. So he does a lot of really good things. And then Justin Gonzales, 4 for 21 this week, 3 walks, 2 RBIs, 4 runs scored. Nothing fantastic from him in the short time that he was in high A. I don't even think he had an extra base hit. But the physical tools are still there. Like we mentioned when Brian Abraham was on, that he struggles to put the ball in the air. That's been like the one big issue with him is too many ground balls. And like Brian Abraham said, 110 mile an hour ground ball usually still goes for a hit. But if you put that 110 miles in the air, that's going to be extra bases, probably a home run. But it was cool to see him get a shot at the level for, even with it being a very short time, just getting to see him get his feet wet at the level and prepare him for starting next year there. It'll be really interesting to see if he moves up even more next year or when he moves up even more next year. But yeah, just nothing to get too excited about with him in his, I think he played like 12 games at the level or something like that. 11 games. So yeah, 11 games, 8 hits, all of them were singles. He had one of the better at-bats I've seen all year this year, and it ended in possibly the lamest way ever. He had a 14-pitch at-bat on I think it was in the first game of Greenville's doubleheader yesterday. 14 pitches. He fouled off like 6 in a row, then took ball 3, then fouled off 2 more, and then was called for a pitch clock violation and struck out without even actually striking out. And that's one of those things I feel like I get it, it's the rules, but I feel like the umpire should maybe alter things a little bit there. For one thing, the pitch clock doesn't start right away after a foul ball. There's usually a little moment there. And if you watch it, Justin Gonzales is in the batter's box. He's like doing his warm-up swing type thing, and the ump calls it. I feel like he could have just been like, hey, he's set, keep going. And Justin Gonzales was not happy, threw his helmet down. I think that was the same game we also saw Liam Carroll get ejected. Justin Reimer almost got ejected, but one of the bench coaches kind of stepped in front of him and took the ejection for him. Greenville was just not happy with the umps that game. But either way, I'm not holding the 11 games against Justin Gonzales against him, or the 11 games in high A for Justin Gonzales against him. The only issue with his time there was really just he put the ball in the air 5-6 times. Like it was 90% of the time it was ground outs or ground ball singles. But yeah, the power is very real, and I'm just happy that he got a cup of coffee at the level.
Yeah, I don't have a ton on the hitting side. I will just mention that Juan Montero went 2 for 3 this week with 2 singles, meaning his average on base and slugging percentage were all 6.67. Yep. And then
I'm no selling that. Just
I'm aware.
Move on to the next thing.
Dramatic pause.
That's what the kids call numerology.
And then Nelly Taylor had 6 walks this week. I know he had 10 strikeouts. He eclipsed the 80 walk mark for the season. Very impressive, right? He hasn't had like the craziest of years, but him eclipsing 80 walks in, I think it was like just over 100 games, almost a walk per game. I feel like that's very impressive, and that's something where, I mean, I feel like we mentioned it before, but if the bat's not always going with Nelly Taylor, the defense is always going to be there. And yeah, he was struggling to maybe get hits. He's still getting on base, right? So I feel like it's not the craziest end of the year for Nelly Taylor, but 2 hits, including a double, 6 walks, and he stole 2 bases this week. And the defense always plays for him. So that's a fun one. In terms of, it's going to be fun to see him next year, hopefully. That's all I have on the position player side. We'll switch over to the pitching side. I think we should probably should start with Devin Futrell. 5 innings in his start, 2 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts, no walks, no hit batters either. Just a very, very solid start for him. And this is a Greenville pitching staff where, I mean, there's been so much talent in Greenville this year. It's been absurd. Futrell this year, obviously split between Salem and Greenville, but combined numbers: 17 starts, 62 2/3 innings, a 1.87 ERA. His 5 starts in Greenville, he went 24 2/3 innings with a 1.09 ERA. Gave up 6 runs, only 3 of them earned, however, and not a ton of strikeouts. Only 40 strikeouts in his 62 2/3 innings, but he's also only walked 14. He also only walked 14. So a very good year for Futrell. Obviously, he's not blowing hitters away and striking everyone out like some people who've seen in the system this year. Peyton Toley. But a very good year for Futrell, and someone who is, who last year a 10th round pick out of Vanderbilt, comes in this year, and very, very good first professional season for him. I think that's something that you look at and you can't complain about it at all. So a very good year for him. And then also just chuck on Adam Smith had 4 shutout innings in his 2 relief appearances. 7 strikeouts for him. Did walk 3, but only gave up 1 hit as well. So he had a really good week this week as well. So.
I'll jump in and talk about Noah Dean, who is somebody that has been around the Red Sox organization for a few years at this point, and I think that the move to the bullpen for him, I think, was kind of a long time coming. He was somebody that when the Red Sox drafted him out of Old Dominion, again, we had Noah on the podcast. I think it was last year, right? He had only been a reliever, or at least the year that he was drafted, he had only been a reliever at Old Dominion. And the Red Sox liked his ability, and they thought, okay, he's going to be we see him as a starter. Like, the way that his pitch shapes and the way that he throws and stuff like that, like, we think starting pitching is kind of in his future. Well, we've just kind of seen flashes of him being good, but also not a lot of consistency. So in August, the Red Sox seemingly have moved him into like a full-time bullpen role. And for the most part, he's been really good. His first outing was rough. He gave up 4 runs in a third of an inning with 3 walks. Other than that, he's only given up 2 earned runs in his, 5 outings since then. And one of them was he gave up a home run in his outing on the 17th. He gave up an earner, and so his outing this past week, it was over the weekend. He gave up, or it was on Friday. He gave up just 1 unearned run, one hit and had 3 strikeouts in 2 innings. And now he's going to be going up to Portland. And we're going to talk, I assume once we get to Portland, we'll talk about the promotions. But basically, because of Greenville's season ending, a bunch of pitchers are going up to Portland for the last week of Portland season, and Noah Dean is one of them. So always a guy that maybe seemed like his stuff would play up better in the bullpen, and maybe long term was a bullpen guy. I think that usually usually the way that, and we didn't really talk about this with Brian when he was on, but I think usually the way the Red Sox approach this is that they keep guys as starters, and unless they know when they draft them that they're going to be relievers, but also they will keep those guys in the rotations until they sort of prove they give them a reason to put them in the bullpen. So the Red Sox clearly seem like they've made a decision with Noah Dean that he's going to be a bullpen arm full time. He had a pretty interesting, mostly pretty solid run since the beginning of August working out of the bullpen, and he will probably get 1 or maybe 2 opportunities this next week to pitch in Portland to see how much further he can develop, and he'll be seemingly probably part of the Portland bullpen to start next year.
Brady Tygart made his high A debut this week. I don't remember where. I don't remember if it was Sox prospects. Someone mentioned, I think it was Chris Hatfield mentioned how they like Tygart. It's not like this isn't a negative thing, but it was also kind of just he was the guy who like it was his day to pitch, and they needed someone in high A, so he was the one that got promoted. And he was phenomenal. 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, no walks, 5 strikeouts. I'm pretty sure he gave up the home run in the first inning. Even it might have been to the first pitcher he faced, or the first batter he faced. I'm kind of blanking on that now, but he's looked really good since coming back from injury. Kind of sucks to think about. No, okay, I'm sorry. It was the second batter of the game. But it kind of sucks to think about the fact that like this is a guy who made 1 start in April, on April 5th, and then he didn't pitch again until August 7th due to injuries. So just a very shortened season for him. But outside of 1 game on August 26th, he was fantastic the entire year, striking out people at a good rate, not walking people. Only gave up 1 home run on the year. It was in that last game. So intriguing guy, 12th round draft pick last year, college arm. I think someone who you should pay attention to next year as a guy who could maybe make a nice little leap there. And then Juan Valera, his last start of the year, I guess. 2 2/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. The no walks is fantastic. Didn't really have like a big issue with walks this year, but still just seeing him come back, make 2 appearances. So like he last pitched on May 25th, and then he pitched again August 29th, and then September 5th. So he only made 2 appearances since coming off the IL. 4 2/3 combined innings, just 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. He was hitting 99. A lot of positives to build off of. Doesn't look like the best season. For a multiple number of reasons. Only got to throw 38 innings due to the injury. Had a 5.54 ERA or 5.45 ERA, which isn't great. But 46 strikeouts compared to just 10 walks and 38 innings. He throws really hard. The stuff's nasty. 6 home runs is a bit of an issue, but and that has to do with location. Like just because you're not walking people doesn't mean location's perfect. It doesn't mean command's perfect. Sometimes your pitch lays flat, but there's a reason everyone was so high on him coming into the year. Important to remember that he was 18 years old making his high A debut this year. That's absurd. And someone who we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, as it almost felt like he was forgotten as a prospect by a lot of people. Not obviously not like the people that matter, but just a lot of people, just because he hadn't pitched for 3 months. And in that time, you had people like Peyton Tolley climb up the ladder, and Brandon Clark at the start of the year was so impressive, and Connolly early has been phenomenal this year. So you had all these other people, and then obviously with the draft, the Red Sox drafted however many pitchers, and a lot of them very early on: Marcus Phillips, Anthony Ianson, Kaisan Witherspoon. So it just kind of felt like he got buried a little bit, and I'm excited to see him next year. I'm interested to see if he maybe goes Arizona Fall League. Maybe they want to get him working that way. But yeah, he's someone that I feel like people should not forget about, because he's going to start next year at 19. He'll be in high A. He has the stuff. If they can just figure out a couple things with him, it's terrifying to think how quickly he could fly through the system.
Definitely. I think that's all I have on Greenville. So I think now is actually a perfect time. We'll take the jump to Salem. I do want to start off with Yoel and Cespedes. It wasn't like the craziest of weeks. He only went 2 for 12, but he did drop 5 walks this week. I guess in a similar boat somewhat of Nelly Taylor in terms of like, even with the bats not going, wasn't going this week. At least for this week, the bat wasn't necessarily going, but he was getting on base, got on base 7 times, 5 walks, 2 hits. One of those hits was a home run. He also struck out just the 5 times, so 5 walks to 5 strikeouts. It's solid. Cespedes didn't have the crazy year I think everyone necessarily was hoping he would have. Obviously, he's only 20 years old, right? He's actually just turned 20 today, actually. So happy birthday, Yoel and Cespedes. Shout out. So he's still young, right? Like there's no like concern. Obviously, not the craziest year. Obviously, too. Salem's not the best offensive environment for position players. Also, too, I feel like we mentioned it at times. So Arias also just having the absurd start to the season also kind of overshadowed him a little bit. But so 24 doubles, 5 triples, 10 homers for Cespedes. I did mention last week how it'd be cool if he had a double and a homer this week. He would have had 25 doubles, 5 triples, and 10 homers had he gotten that last double. But overall, 39 extra base hits this year. A very, very solid year. And it's going to be someone who I'm going to be very interested to see how he builds on it going into next year. Especially he's got 110 games in Salem now under his belt. Be interested to see where they put him next year, where they place him at the beginning of next year. I think it's all going to depend on what he looks like in spring training. But I'm very excited to see what's going to come from this upcoming offseason for Cespedes. I'll give it to you, Hunter.
Yeah, slow week for Salem offensively. I think it's funny. There was like that short stretch of time where we talked about them as like the most exciting team, and we were saying how for most of the year they weren't, and then there was that small stretch where they were, and then Justin Gonzales moves up, and Maximus Martin moves up, and Mason White moves up, and things kind of died down there a little bit. But D'Angelo Ortiz had a really good end of the year. It seemed like he was getting a lot of clutch hits. He had the one game last week where he had 3 RBI singles. I do want to talk about Skylar King, though. Jake mentioned him earlier. He had his first professional home run this week. He had 3 steals. He is very fast. He had a couple triples in a very short amount of time with Salem. He was stealing bases, and he is phenomenal defensively in the outfield. I feel like that was one of the big highlights of the draftees, was just how impressive Skylar King was. It seemed like every week he was making multiple defensive plays, defensive gems in the outfield, diving plays, sliding plays, good throws. That's the outfield is not something that the Red Sox are limited when it comes to prospects or even just organizational depth in general. Obviously, the major league team is loaded with outfielders too. But speed and defense are 2 things that will get you far in the minor leagues. I'm not saying that that's enough to get you to the majors, but it's enough to get you a lot of leeway and keep moving up. And it gives you time to work on offense. And there's already some intriguing stuff offensively for him. So yeah, it was a good week. It was cool to see him get that first professional homer. I was mad at the MiLB app. It was not working, so I could not record it at the time. I ended up getting it after the game. It had to be something to do with Apple, because it wouldn't work on my laptop or my phone, but I could watch it on my desktop. So I had all the games on my desktop, but it wasn't letting me use my phone, which is what I usually use to record. And then I was like, screw it, I'll use my laptop and it'll just be a really bad video. And then it wasn't working there either. So I just had to wait for after the game. But yeah, it was cool to see him get a couple big moments this year. He's I believe he was the last hitter drafted. I believe he was the last position player drafted by the Red Sox. And then there's a couple other people, but I'm gonna let Jake go. I do just want to quickly mention Gerardo Rodriguez absurdly impressed me in his short time in Single A this year. He got that small cup of coffee there last year. He had a couple hits, but they were all very weak singles, a lot of infield hits. He started this year back in the FCL, 16 doubles, no triples, no homers in 47 games, 154 at-bats. In 74 at-bats with Salem this year, he slashed 297, 372, 500, 4 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, which 3 homers in 22 games ties his career high of 3 homers in 38 games in the DSL in 2023. And then he had just 1 home run last year. Phenomenal defensive catcher, really good arm. I forget what the percentage was, but at one point this week, he threw someone out and he was at like 38% caught stealing rate, which is fantastic. And then he threw out the next guy that tried to steal on him. So just, he was always one of those guys that it felt like, hey, the defense will carry. It will help him move up through the system at least a little bit. If he's adding, like if this offensive spurt was not a fluke, if this is, I don't expect him to hit 3 home runs every 22 games. But if he has added some life to his bat, I think that this is a very good catching prospect, which the Red Sox don't have a ton of. But it's good to see another young guy. They have a couple guys in like the DSL and the FCL, Jorge Rodriguez. Why am I blanking on his name? He was the DSL All-Star MVP.
Oh, yeah, I'm blanking on his name too.
he hit a homer in the DSL. In the DSL,
it was just on the tip of my tongue. It was just Franklin Primera.
Yes, thank you. Like they have a bunch of guys who are intriguing, but a lot of them are far away. It's really kind of just Johan Fran Garcia, and then Brooks Brandon's been fantastic lately. But so it's good to see someone in Single A really step up and turn himself into something more than he was just a couple weeks ago.
I don't have a ton. I mean, I can throw it back to you. I would just say that like the technically the last position player that the Sox drafted this past year was Fabian Bonilla, who they took, but he has not made his professional debut yet. But then Skylar King was the last.
Fabian was also the only high schooler they took.
True.
Yes, out of Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Skylar King was the last U.S. draftee.
Yeah, Skylar King was the last of the U.S.
for position players
draftees. So
yes.
No, I mean, I wanted to just mention, like, I think that Indy Azakar had a pretty interesting sort of first full year, or whatever you want to call it. I think that he's only, it's hard. For first full year stateside, he did play 14 games in FCL before he kind of got the call up to Salem. Finished the year, the numbers are just okay. He's probably going to go back to Salem to start next year. 6 home runs with a 202 average, 273 on base on the year, 314 slug after putting up really good numbers in a small sample in FCL. But I think there's enough there to be interested in to see what he's going to do. I think that coming into the year, there was a lot of buzz about him. We talked about what, like Brian talked about, like these guys are only 18 years old. There's so much growing and so much different stuff they can do. And then again, Salem is a really hard place to hit. But as far as the week that he had to finish off the season, he went 5 for 19 with a double, 4 runs scored, did drive in 1 run. Did also have a stolen base. So there's a lot to like with the Indy Azakar's profile, but I think like get him back there in Salem next year. Hopefully he gets off to a good start and he can, maybe by the end of next year he's in Greenville, but he was just somebody I wanted to make sure we mentioned.
Just a couple quick notes. Jack Winay, 4 for 9, 5 RBIs. He was really good. It was upsetting to see he missed some time with injury, which sucks. He was one of the draftees, and he started off really hot. I think he had like 3 hits and a homer in his first professional game, and then I think he got hurt like the next day. Caleb Berry played 1 game, went 3 for 3 with 3 RBIs and two walks and a steal. That's just an absurd game. He was an undrafted free agent this year, the only catcher added. Starlin Nunez 3 for 17 with a double and a triple, but he did have 5 RBIs and 2 steals. Really intriguing prospect. He makes a lot of good highlight defensive plays, but then he'll have some of those boneheaded errors. But obviously, very young guy, athletic, spark plug on offense. He can make good defensive plays. He really feels like one of those prospects who we're either never going to talk about again in 2 years, or he'll be like one of those absurdly fast risers who all of a sudden everyone is in love with in 2 years. So it'll be intriguing to watch him grow. And then just Frederick Jimenez spent all year in single A, had some ups and downs. Cool to see him end the year on a really high note. Last game of the season, he had a 2-homer game. One was the game tying home run in the bottom of the 6th, and then he hit, I don't remember if it was to go ahead or if it was to put them ahead by 2 in like the bottom of the 8th. So just a cool game for Frederick Jimenez. We've talked about him a couple times this year. Again, very, very up and down. Mainly playing first base. He looked good there. But it was cool to see him kind of get like the final big moment of the season, considering he was one of the few players that spent the entire season with Salem.
Yeah. I was going to mention Jimenez's 2 homers if you didn't, Hunter, but I'll move on to the pitching side of things. Jose Bayo, just another solid start. 5 innings, 3 hits, just the 1 unearned run, only 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Very, very, very good year, obviously. Really nice addition for the Red Sox in the Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks trade, Jose Bayo trade as well. That's all we mentioned. Those are the names of the trade.
Can we not mention Jordan Hicks?
Hi. It could be worse. It could be.
How? If he had some sort of off-field incident, I guess maybe that would be.
He's not Reese McGuire, at least.
Reese
okay,
McGuire.
There you go. No off-field incident that we know of so far.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like a nice guy. So I tell you, at least there's that. But back to Jose Bayo. In Salem, he made 7 appearances, 4 starts, 23 and a third innings, 3.09 ERA, 17 strikeouts, did walk 15, but his overall numbers in his 55 and 2/3 innings, just 24 walks and 61 strikeouts. Yes, the majority of them were in rookie ball in the complex leagues between the Arizona Complex League and the Florida Complex League, but he looked very good. And just an interesting note, I guess, all 8 of his games with the Giants in the Arizona Complex League were as a reliever. And then 4 of his 5 appearances with the Red Sox in the FCL were out of the bullpen. And then 4 of his 7 appearances in Salem were as a starter. So it kind of flipped. Obviously, that's not, there's, especially in the complex leagues, you get a lot of guys maybe going 2 or 3 innings. So that's not like the Red Sox are making him into a starter and he wasn't one before, but it is an interesting note because the guys who they're going to give higher priority to are definitely the ones who are much more likely to start. So I think that's an interesting little tidbit there, I guess.
Yeah, I think that what was pretty clear was like other than Jose Bayo, it felt like the Red Sox were trying to kind of wind down this week the sort of pitching workloads for a lot of the guys who, especially even starting pitchers. It's like you look down the line, it feels like almost everybody threw 3 innings this week, with like a few exceptions, or they 3 1/3 or 3 2/3. Like a bunch of the starts guys went. Yhoiker Fajardo only went 3 innings. He was okay. He did have 4 walks, but also had 6 strikeouts and gave up just 2 earned runs. Again, you look down the line, like Alex Bouchard went 3 2/3, friend of the show. Jesus Trevier, so only threw 3 innings in his start. So definitely sort of last opportunity to get some work in for these guys. I think with Greenville season ending, not much of an opportunity for these guys to continue pitching. We might see some of these guys in the fall league potentially. Just want to mention Calvin Bickerstaff went 3 1/3 with 3 strikeouts and 1 walk, did not give up a hit or a run in his 2 relief outings over the course of this past week.
Yeah, I don't really have many notes here. Just Jesus Treviso continues to be really weirdly intriguing. He has nasty stuff, but sometimes he just seems to get hit around a little bit. This week, 3 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs. Neither of them earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. And then with Fajardo, yeah, just it was a frustrating start. Location wasn't perfect, but I really love his stuff. The secondary stuff seems to be really good. The fastball plays well. I'm interested to see if he starts next year in high A. He'll be very young. It'll be not on the same level as Juan Valera, because I'm pretty sure Fajardo got a little bit more time in single A. I might be wrong there, but I feel like he got a little bit more time in single A than Valera did, and he's a little bit younger. He'll be 19 before the start of the season, whereas Valera didn't turn 19 until May. But just it's weird because I feel like we have that like weird connection with Fajardo just because of the whole joke and everything. But I genuinely think he was the pitching prospect that kind of grasped me the most this year. He was like the most, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but the dominance is kind of out of nowhere. I don't think anyone expected him to be nearly as good as he was. So he's been someone that's just been really fun to watch. It feels like the fans are decently excited about him, which is a good thing to say about a guy that came from the Cam Boozer trade. Like that, that is not the most likely source of fan excitement, but
it's the Yhoiker Fajardo trade now.
Yeah, it is the Yhoiker Fajardo trade.
Absolutely.
But a 2.9 ERA in single A, 229 batting average against, 123 whip, 59 strikeouts to just 20 walks. He was absurd in the FCL. He had a 0.44 ERA in 20 2/3 innings. But just like he when he first got promoted to single A, it wasn't miserable, but the first 3 outings were not good. 4 innings, 3 runs, 3 hits, 2 1/3 innings, 5 runs, 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 innings, 8 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned. And then since then, it's just been 99% phenomenal. It was disappointing to see him end the year on not the highest of notes, but he still got the 6 strikeouts in. Still a lot to like, and definitely the pitcher of the last 2 months for Salem. Obviously, he won the pitcher of the month for the Carolina League. But just he's been fantastic for Salem since July.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, with that, I don't have anything else on Salem.
One more thing. One last thing. Sunday was the final game ever in the history of the Salem Red Sox. Now, that doesn't mean the franchise is going away. Doesn't mean the affiliation is going away. But they are as we discussed this earlier in the season, Salem. They are rebranding the team. I believe they said that they are doing a
November
launch party
8th.
for the new brand on November 8th, so they're waiting until after the World Series and everything. They don't want to take attention away from the World
Yeah,
Series.
that's fair.
Like,
They knew that people wouldn't tune into the
they
World
know
Series.
People will be distracted from the World Series if they announce the new nickname and brand for the Salem. So I kind of RIP-ish to the Salem Red Sox, which is I believe has been their name ever since they were a Red Sox affiliate, and that goes back quite a few years at this point. So we will see.
Salem silly pants. That's what I'm hoping.
Oh God, no! Please no. Well, I mean, if we're looking at former low A affiliates, there's not really like I was looking at like names earlier. I went through this with Jason a month ago or so, because we were just looking through like random names of former affiliates. The Red Sox kind of have a history of like their affiliates just being the Red Sox. So right. I do think that is interesting. It is interesting.
But but clearly that has been the trend in minor league baseball is to go away from that. I think
yes.
The Woo Sox may end up being one of the last ones that's like but like they're the nobody calls them the Worcester Red Sox, but that is officially their name.
Well, no one called the Pawtucket Red Sox the
They were-
Pawtucket Red Sox.
Yeah, they were the Paw Sox. So anyway,
Yes.
but yes.
Just interesting note. The Red Sox AAA affiliate 2 times in their history was the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Right. Including around the time that the Red Sox, the like 1967, like that was because Dick Williams, I believe, had been the manager of the Toronto AAA affiliate, and then they hired him to be the Red Sox manager and took them to the World Series in 1967. So yes, Toronto Maple Leafs. That is kind of weird.
It is weird.
Think about that.
Well, that's too. You have like the Louisville Cardinals was after that, and that was before the Paw Sox, obviously.
Yeah.
So, and then the San Francisco Seals. I mean, the hockey team was the California Golden Seals, and not exactly the same.
That was where that was Ted Williams. Like that was his team.
Yes, exactly.
And I think Bobby Dorr. I think they were teammates on the or they played in that league. I think actually maybe it was Dom DiMaggio was his teammate anyway. But San Diego, that's obviously Ted Williams' hometown. But anyway,
I am going to be interested to see what they do. Maybe they'll change from the Salem Red Sox to the Salem polka dot Sox or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The teal Sox. Anyway, we could do this. We could literally do this the whole night.
The maroon Sox. Let's move on to Worcester though. I think the only starting place we really can have is Nathan Hickey. Big week for him. 6 hits, 3 of those homers. The 2 of the other 3 hits were doubles. He also walked 4 times. His slash line for the week, 316, 435, 895. Worcester had a weird week in terms of games. They had a game get rained out. That also where there were tornadoes in Worcester as well. And then the doubleheader, which was yesterday, the first game got delayed. So interesting, at least an interesting weekend for Worcester. But with all that, Nathan Hickey had a very good week, 3 homers. And he's I would really like MiLB.com to stop listing him as a catcher because it throws me off every single time. It just constantly throws me off. But I mean, he's had a solid year: 20 doubles, 2 triples, 16 homers, 69 RBIs. Nice. I wouldn't be against it if Nathan Hickey got no more RBIs for the rest of the year, just because. Well, but no, Nathan Hickey, he's.
I don't think he'd be too happy.
Well, that maybe, but for the memes. Obviously, Nathan Hickey also would be as long as he doesn't have a caught stealing, he'll continue his streak of never being caught stealing in an odd number year in professional baseball. It is a really random stat. He 0 for 0 in 2021, 3 for 3 in 2023, and then he's 2 for 2 this year.
Wow, that is as random a stat as you could possibly pull out. It doesn't get more random than that.
Hey, well, I mean, the market. I remember like Marcus Semien, like he had like 3 odd years in a row where he finished 3rd in AL MVP voting. 2019, 2021, and 2023. It was just like amazing and odd number years, and then the even number years, he just wasn't as good. Maybe Nathan Hickey's thing is being an elite base stealer during the odd number years. It's like Masataka Yoshida.
His 10 career steals.
Yeah. Well, hey, Masataka Yoshida is an elite base stealer. Okay, maybe that's Nathan. Maybe that's Nathan Hickey's calling card in odd number years. Yeah, because Masa doesn't get caught stealing. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. On the other note, Kristian Campbell hit a homer this week and had 7 hits and had a weak cycle, I guess, if you want to call it. He had a double, triple, and a homer plus 4 singles. So I got
okay. When you said weak cycle, I thought you meant like WEAK.
No.
Like it's the worst cycle I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was weak. But you meant like for the week. Yeah,
over the week he had
I'm like that's. I don't.
Yeah.
It's like a cycle that where you miss one of the parts of the cycle is it's a weak cycle. But no, over the course of the week.
Yes, over the course of the week, he had all 4 legs of the cycle over
Yeah.
the course of the week. Only 4 strikeouts this week, 2 walks as well. Yeah, obviously, I think we kind of speculated a little bit that Kristian Campbell might potentially be an option for the Red Sox down the stretch. It seems like he very much is an option. Also, considering that the injuries the Red Sox are having right now, and their only position players on the 40-man in Worcester that are healthy are Campbell and Yassin Garcia. So don't be shocked if you see Kristian Campbell in the big leagues, and him having a really good end to the year in Worcester would be really nice to see, especially if the Red Sox need him for the playoff stretch.
Yeah. We some very interesting stuff from Brian Abraham earlier about Campbell and the development and kind of where they see him going, where they see him playing, and the sort of idea that maybe first base is not really going to be in the future for him, but also definitely seemed like he left open the possibility that we could see him in the big leagues before the end of this year. So, yeah, I mean, you touched on Hickey. Mikey Romero hit 2 homers this week. Also, not like the greatest week for him.
Friend of the show, though.
Another friend of the show, 5 for 25, but he did have the 2 home runs. So good to see Mikey is healthy and finishing the year hopefully strong. He's had I think a bit of a rough go of it offensively at AAA. It'll be great to get if he's it'd be great to get him back next year. Give him a full healthy offseason, then a full getting geared up start of the year in AAA to kind of like see what he does. I don't really have much else. Obviously, briefly, Nick Sogard was there and he went 3 for 4, and then he came up to the big leagues and had effectively a game-winning hit. So, and now he's playing left field tonight. So, what can't Nick Sogard do? That's what I want to
know. Let's see. He can't catch apparently. I don't know.
You don't know
that.
That was a rhetorical. You're not supposed to that was a rhetorical question. Like,
I know. I had to.
Let's just enjoy the Nick Sogard.
He can't be a switch pitcher.
Okay.
You also don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just assuming things.
He's a switch hitter, so why can't he be a switch hitter?
He can't fly.
You don't. I
don't know that.
I don't know
that. You mentioned Mikey Romero. I agree. Like it hasn't been perfect, but there's been to me one of the big positives. 33 games, he has 9 doubles, 6 homers. So the power's been very good since getting up to AAA. But yeah, the 213 average, he's striking out a little bit too much. There are definitely things to work on, but it's good to see him getting this experience. And while there are struggles, there's also some clear positives. The power jump has just been so impressive. Like that's going into last year, that was not talked about as a part of his game. And now it seems like he does have some legitimate power to his game, which makes him that much more of an intriguing prospect. But yeah, not much else to talk about offensively. Yassin Garcia had a very rough week, 1 for 19 with 10 strikeouts. I'm always fascinated seeing that. I feel like that tends to happen more often than you would think when a player gets sent back down to the minors. Not always for negative things. Like in Yassin Garcia's case, it was kind of like he was probably aware that he was only going to be in the majors for a couple days. They needed him while people were on the IL. And just they struggle when they get sent back down. We've seen it with Nick Sogard before. We've seen it with Kristian Campbell when he first got sent back down. We've seen it with Yassin Garcia now. And there's still 2 weeks left in the season. I wouldn't be surprised if he bounces back and has a monster week one of these last 2 weeks of the season. But yeah, that's about it for the offensive side. Sebi Zavala did have a walk-off hit yesterday in game 2 of the doubleheader. So just obviously not a prospect or anything, but a depth catcher he's had a couple big moments this year. So good for him.
Okay, where's my list? I had a list of things to talk about, and I lost it, but I got it. I'm good. I don't have anything else on the position player side. Let's move on to the pitching. I feel like we have to start with Connolly early. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 10 strikeouts, no walks, and also no hit batters. Super efficient. No free pass.
Wait. So he was efficient even though he didn't hit anyone.
That's only if you are going to give up a free pass.
I'm amazed. I'm amazed at the ability of a pitcher to have an efficient outing, but it didn't hit anybody.
Because not hitting or walking anyone is more efficient than hitting someone and not walking anyone. But hitting someone is more efficient than walking them because it takes more pitches to walk them than to hit them.
Okay.
Math.
Thank you for the math lesson. Appreciate it.
But Connolly early this year, between the two levels, he's got 100 and a third innings pitched, 2.60 ERA. In Worcester, he's made 6 starts, 2.83 ERA in those 6 starts, 36 strikeouts to 11 walks in 28 and 2/3 innings. He's just been really good. There's no other way to put it. He's had a really, really good year. And he's a name that is interesting for the Red Sox now, but also even jumping into next year. The pitching depth that the Red Sox could potentially have next year if everyone's healthy. And yes, there could be off-spin trades, right? So that is to take into consideration. But Connolly early might not even be on the 40-man roster to start next year because he's not Rule 5 eligible, which is kind of absurd to think about that he might be maybe their 10th or 11th starting pitcher, potentially, going into spring training, depending on how things roll out with health and everything. And depending on who comes back or who is added to the team. So it's wacky just in general, the pitching depth the Red Sox have. A guy who is Rule 5 eligible is Tyler Uberstein, obviously, which I'm sure we'll talk about him. But with early, it is definitely – he's just an interesting name just because of the fact he's not Rule 5 eligible. So I'm not saying he's going to get traded. I'm just saying that he could be a candidate in terms of you don't have to worry about him being eligible for the Rule 5 and then not being able to trade him because he's in the Rule 5 draft. So I do I'm not saying he's going to, like I said, I'm not saying he's getting traded, but it wouldn't shock me either if the Red Sox are trying to go get a Joe Ryan per se, right? Would not shock me if Connolly Early's name is in those discussions. But really good year and a really, really good start as the season's winding down.
Yeah. You mentioned the numbers for Early. I just think he has been, I think, definitely the best pitcher that has spent the whole season in the Red Sox minor league system. I would say Peyton Tolley has been the best pitcher in the Red Sox minor league system this year, but obviously he's in the big leagues now. The best guy that has been in the system the whole year, that's been in the minor leagues the whole year, has been Early, just mowing guys down. It did seem like it took the Red Sox quite a while to decide to finally move him up to AAA. I think the discussion you were talking about there, Derrik, about him not needing to be added to the 40-man probably had something to do with that. It's like, why do we need to rush him? But just think, you look at the situation that the Red Sox are in right now where they just, there's so much uncertainty when you get past the top 3 guys in the rotation, even the top 2 guys with the way that Giolito kind of looked over the weekend. I still kind of have faith that he's going to be fine and continue to produce for them. But obviously the sort of one bad Tolley start doesn't take away from his potential and the fact that I think he's going to continue to be a factor down the stretch. But I think that obviously Dustin May has not really been what the Red Sox were hoping. I don't really know what the Red Sox were hoping when they traded for Dustin May, but piece kind of has been who he is. So I think that you could see Connolly Early, and the other name, of course, is also Kyle Harrison, who only threw 1 inning over the weekend in the doubleheader. He was okay. He gave up a hit and a run and a walk, but also had 2 strikeouts in his 1 inning. They wanted to keep him fresh and have him throw. But I think also just with an eye towards the fact that he might be pitching in the big leagues this week. So we'll see what happens. But I do think that Connolly Early, he has really forced the issue because of how well he's pitched over the course of this season, being the best pit starter that has pitched the whole year in the minor leagues for the Red Sox. And that's why we're talking about him potentially making his big league debut as soon as this week for the Red Sox.
Yeah, the 10 strikeouts, I believe, tied a career high. He's been so consistently good for Portland and Worcester all year. Completely agree with what you said, how he's been the best pitcher that's spent his entire season in the minor leagues for the Red Sox this year. They're definitely going to have to figure something out pitching wise. And he does seem like a very good option. Tyler Uberstein, also a phenomenal option. 6 innings, 2 hits, 6 runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. I believe the 8 strikeouts tied a season high for him. Yeah, they did. Interesting note from Jim Kane, one of Worcester's he's one of their broadcasters. He tweeted out, Tyler Uberstein International League ranks since his AAA debut May 17th. He's 5th in strikeouts and 7th in whiffs. Like this is I feel like that's something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough with Uberstein, is his ability to miss bats. I think the main focus tends to be on his ability to not walk people. In 110 and 2/3 innings, he has 39 walks, which is very solid, but he also has 125 strikeouts. That's fantastic. He doesn't throw like 99 or anything in his last start. It was 95 he maxed out at 95, but there's good movement. The secondary stuff's good. Again, the low walk rate really helps being able to locate your pitches. He is Rule 5 eligible, which makes me wonder if he's another, well, actually I shouldn't even say that, which makes him another very legitimate option for them to call up. And then Alex Hoppe, 3 innings in 2 appearances, no hits, no runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. We've mentioned him a couple times recently about how he's been so fantastic for them over the last like 2 months, maybe. There was one really tough outing for him. August 2nd, in 2/3 of an innings, he gave up 5 runs, 3 earned on 2 hits. He walked 3 people. But outside of that, he gave up just 2 runs in 10 innings the rest of the month, and then he's thrown 3 shutout innings this month. And going back to July 20th, he added another 4 innings of shutout work. He throws 100. The slider's really good. He's fixed his command for the most part. He still has a couple outings, like the August 16th rough outing. He walked 3 guys. But that was it was a much more prevalent issue with him last year. I just made up a word. And he's another guy. They need starters mainly. So I feel like he's maybe not the top of the rung when it comes to who's going to get promoted, but I do think he's a name to look out for. He's Rule 5 eligible. So again, it could be a situation of we're going to protect him anyway. So let's throw him in there now and see what happens. Because while they do need starting pitching, they really do just need pitching in general right now. They're having issues with a couple of people out there. Someone like Zach Kelly, who threw 4 innings the other day, like they kind of just need to keep filtering these guys in and out until they figure things out, until things maybe get back to normal. Hopefully, if they make the playoffs, it's upsetting that it doesn't feel as certain as it did a couple days ago. But if they make the playoffs, things will get much easier when you're not worried about a 5-man rotation. But for now, they're really trying to figure out who even the 4th starter is, let alone the 5th starter. So that's a spot where Hoppe could end up helping, is just if the bullpen's getting run ragged, there's a lot of guys who they can just keep pushing in and out of the major league or on the major league roster. And he's someone who, at the very least, is intriguing. Like the stuff's good, and for the most part, he's limited bad outings this year. And he's been very good since getting promoted to AAA, outside of, again, those couple rough outings. Like his overall numbers in AAA aren't anything that are going to freak people out. 4.54 ERA, 242 batting average against, 23 walks in 41 2/3 innings. He does have 53 strikeouts though. But again, you can't just take away negative outings. But at the same time, the way I look at it with pitchers is like, you kind of can take out those negative outings, because it's like, yeah, he was bad these 3 times, but the other 30, he was fantastic. So you're just kind of hoping when you put them into the majors that they have those great outings. And sometimes that doesn't work out. We saw that with Peyton Tolley this week. His first outing was phenomenal. Second time, it didn't really seem like he was all there. The fastball velo was down a little bit. He got rattled a little bit easier. He wasn't locating the secondary stuff as well. So like you're going to get that with young guys. You're going to get that with anyone. So like, unless it's someone having just an absolutely elite season, like Aroldis Chapman is this year, relievers are always going to be not 100% guaranteed to give you a good outing. They're coming in for one inning. Anything can happen. They usually don't get a chance to correct themselves like a starter would. If a starter has a bad inning, he can still go 6 and salvage the outing. So I think he's a very intriguing option as someone who can maybe come in and help the bullpen save a couple innings as the year goes on.
Definitely. I thought that's a good place to leave off on Worcester. We'll go to Portland now, where I have the little paper sign. The most important information ever. Alan Castro's 2025 Portland MVP. Hang it in the Louvre.
Okay.
Yes, Alan Castro is Portland's 2025 MVP. Big day for the Alan Castro fan club. A big year winning MVP for Portland. This week, Castro had 5 hits, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, and just 3 strikeouts. Over the course of the entire season, 268, 353, 400, 20 doubles, 2 triples, 7 homers. He's got 29 extra base hits, so he's closing in right there on the 30 extra base hit mark. And he's, Alan Castro. What else is there to say about him? Yes, we already mentioned Brian Abraham. To be fair, I don't want to spend 10 minutes on Alan Castro. So we did ask Brian Abraham about him, but I felt it was noteworthy enough to at least bring up. On the other side of things happening in Portland, in terms of stuff that's actually happening, I guess, Brooks Brennan had a 529 on base this week. It was 5 for 13. No extra base hits, but 4 walks, just 4 strikeouts. And who mentioned that Brandon was playing well as of late? Was it Hunter or Jake? I already forgot. I don't know. But Brandon, I think we mentioned it last week. He was really starting to kind of turn a corner in Portland, and now his OPS in Portland's only 21 points lower than what it was in Greenville. He's got a 690 OPS in Portland. Nice. But he's also got 5 homers in his 35 games with Portland compared to the 5 he had with Greenville in 55 games. He's got 12 extra base hits compared to 15. So the power has been on play for Brandon with Portland. And I think the biggest thing, though, 13 walks in the 35 games in Portland to just the 12 walks in the 55 games to Greenville. So there's definitely been good moments for Brandon in Portland, and especially as of late, he's been playing better. And I think that's a good sign for the Red Sox, because I feel like we mentioned it a ton, but the catching depth in the system is very limited, extremely limited. This is not a shot at Ronaldo Hernandez, but Ronaldo Hernandez is in Portland, and we thought Ronaldo Hernandez was gone off the face of a Red Sox team forever, and he is back now. So kind of the state of the catching situation in the Red Sox system right now. Like earlier it was mentioned, it's pretty much Johan Fran in terms of prospects, and that's about it. AAA is Zavala and Chadwick Tromp, right? And I guess Nathan Hickey and a pickle, I guess, can still catch. And then in Portland, it's Rosario and Ronaldo Hernandez, and then Brandon. That's kind of their 3 catchers. So it's nice to see Brandon playing well, and he should be starting next year in Portland. I feel like that's kind of set in stone. As long as he's still in the organization, I feel like it's pretty set in stone. He'll start next year in Portland. And obviously, he's still only 21 years old. I think that's another thing we should mention. He's only 21 years old. Doesn't turn 22 until May of next year. So he's still got time to continue growing and continue developing. So, but obviously, they still got a little bit of time left in the season, obviously as well. But good week for Brooks Brandon.
Well, it was also a good first week in AA for Franklin Arias, who got the promotion. Again, as we talked to Brian Abraham about him, we thought that there was a chance that earlier this year that Franklin Arias at 19 years old would would at least appear for a little bit in Portland, and that is the case. He hit his first AA home run this week, hit 300 for the week, also had a 300 on base, 6 for 20 for the week with 3 runs scored, also had a double. No walks, but did have 4 strikeouts. So getting that taste of AA and a good opportunity for him to see how he does against that pitching over the course of these last couple of weeks. Interesting 2 home runs this week for Ronald Rosario, who I feel like has had this power surge late in the season. Is a guy that's not really known for his offense. That's been fun to see. And then you mentioned Ronaldo Hernandez. He also did hit a home run this week as well. So, this is going to be the final week of the season for Portland. As I mentioned before, they are not playoff bound, but they are going to round out their schedule this week, and we will kind of be wrapping up their season a little bit more next week.
Arias looked really good in his first week. Fun to see him get 2 weeks at the level before the end of the year. Marvin Alcantara, decent week, 292, 370, 375 slash line, 3 walks compared to 3 strikeouts. Phenomenal defensive middle infielder. He's got some speed. Good week for Miguel Blaze. It really feels like he's kind of starting to figure out AA a decent amount. 6 for 20. That's a 300 average. He had a double, 2 RBIs. He stole a base. I mentioned him a little bit when I talked about, I already forget who, Nizan Zanatello. Just as like that guy who, when you watch him, you see all the tools, but it's just frustrating when he doesn't seem to put them all together at the same time. But so far he's hitting, I think, 214 at the AA level, which does not seem great. But it's been a good rate. I'm sorry, 215, 270, 299 slash line at AA, which is not anything to get too excited about, but he's hitting 300. Well, he hit 300 this week. And so that's all of September. And then just the week before that, he had a really good week. It seems like he's putting things together. And he's been one of Portland's better bats for the last 2-3 weeks. So that's a big positive. And then Derrik, you mentioned Alan Castro winning the Portland MVP. 2 things to mention with that. One, not a fan of them doing it with a week left. I know things aren't going to change a ton, but it's there's still a week left of play. Things can happen. But with that, Abram Liendo was named their defensive player of the year. Plays second, third, short, phenomenal at all of them. He went 5 for 17 this week with 7 walks, 294 average, 500 on base. Shockingly, no steals, and a lot of the time he was getting on with no one on second. He has 40 steals on the year, and last week I talked about how maybe he can get to 45, maybe even 50 if he gets on base enough. He got on base enough, and it just I don't know if it's maybe just at the end of the year, maybe they're telling the guys to not do anything too crazy. They only had 2 combined steals all week. Miguel Blaze went 1 for 2 on steal attempts, and then Juan Chacon was 1 for 1 on steal attempts. So maybe that's just, end of the season. Maybe they're telling the guys, hey, relax a little bit. No reason for anyone to get hurt this late into the year. But either way, a phenomenal week for Liendo, and good to see him ending the season on a high note.
I would just point out that I think the logistical reason why they did the MVP and the award stuff is because this past week was the last week that they were in Portland. Yep. So I think they wanted to and you can look at the website, there's a picture of all of them with the
On the
awards,
field
like
and the
on
press
the field
releases.
at home. So
Makes sense.
I think that's the reason. I agree that that's not ideal timing, but I think that's the reason why they did it was just because of the way that the schedule fell at the end of the year.
Also, just this is so out of left field. Masataka Yoshida's been hit 24 times in his big league career at the pitch. I don't know why. I just saw that and I thought it was interesting. It's out of left field. He's also 12 for 12 on stolen bases.
Or out of DH when it comes to him because he doesn't play left field anymore.
He could play left field. Doesn't mean he plays it good, but he could play left field. Just like I could play left field.
Talking about the Sea Dogs, right? Like, that's what we're doing?
Right? I don't know. I just
okay.
Just popped in my head. I don't know. I just thought about Yoshida stealing bases and his, tiny little legs. Just
he's an incredible runner. Just a picture of running.
A perfect form.
Just the best.
Just perfect form. On the pitching side of things, Aiden Mullins, 5 innings, just the 1 run. Only gave up 4 hits, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. Mullins is
It was named pitcher of the year.
Yes. 21 games this year, 20 of them starts, 2.03 ERA. I don't know what the math would be like for him to get his ERA under 2. I'm assuming it might be doable. I would assume he probably has to go a decent amount of innings without giving up a run.
Well, let's see.
It might be doable. I don't know if it is. But either way, stellar year, 2.23 ERA in his 17 starts with Portland. And I mean, just add it to the list of guys for the Red Sox that.
So he would have to throw more than 10 more innings.
Oh.
It seems unlikely. He'd have to throw, if he threw another. Well, yeah. I mean, if he threw another 9 1/3 innings and got up to 90 on the year, he would have a 2 ERA for the year.
Oh, well.
So he would
close. It's still impressive, though. It's still impressive.
Very impressive. He's had
very
year.
impressive.
I mean, we're talking about, like we talked about
someone who's Rule 5 eligible as well.
Yeah, talking about Connolly early being really like the best pitcher in the system this year that's spent their whole year in the minor leagues. I think that Mullins is in that conversation for sure. Like he's just been lights out for like most of this year and has done. And he was amazing in it for first few outings with Greenville, more than earned the right to go up to Portland, and hasn't really been that much worse over the course of the year. Just like having the the ERA for the season of 2.03. Yeah, so like it's just been crazy.
Yeah, and he's a legitimate Rule 5 candidate for the Red Sox in terms of someone where they could potentially add him to the 40-man as well. Obviously, him not pitching in AAA maybe is, but also too like I could very well see some bum team being like, yeah, we're gonna stick him in the bullpen for the entire year if the Red Sox don't protect him.
I really wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't even like a bum team, a quote unquote bum team. Like he's a
the bum teams
pitcher.
pick first though. The bum teams pick first. Is what I'm saying.
Actually, you know what? I have to. I realized that I got my math wrong. So actually, because I was thinking you were just talking about his time in Portland.
Oh no.
So actually, it's very doable for him. He would just have to have. He'd get. If he goes just 2 1/3 innings this week doesn't give up an earned run, he'd get his ERA down to 1.98. So it is doable for the season. I thought you meant just Portland.
No, I meant for the season.
For the season, yes, he could do it.
Yes.
He could do it.
Yeah, my math worked out in my head for once. Yay.
Math is not my strength.
There's a reason I'm not a math major.
Same here.
That's also too because I couldn't understand. All my math teachers had way too strong accents. I gave up. I just gave up. I'm like, I don't know.
I had that same problem.
My first year of college, they stuck me in calculus because I graded into calculus. the strongest Eastern European accent I've ever heard. I dropped the class in like.
It might have been the
weeks.
same guy I had at UNH like
It was a woman.
20 years
it,
ago.
it was a woman, but
it was I think
Oh,
I think my guy was he was Hungarian or something like that, and yeah, it was. I had a little bit of a tough time.
I got some Hungarian blood in me.
Okay, there you go. But it just anyway. Pitchers. Oh yeah, you talked. Did you have anybody else?
I mean, one person I had left on my list was John Holobetz, 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, just 2 strikeouts, but no walks, no hit by pitches. Just continuing to pitch well. I mean, there's not a ton else to say really, but just continuing to do what he's been doing for feels like the entire year since Sox traded for him. That's all I have. Oh, also, when's Noah Song getting in Worcester? Come on.
I don't know. I mean, you would have thought.
It seems like it's not happening at this point, but
so
I don't think it's happening.
As far as that's all I was going to just mention is that last week in Portland, Andrew Parker. We already talked about Noah Dean. He said that Adam Smith, Danny Kerwin, and Michael Sansone are all coming up for this last week. There may be some more. And also Jack Anderson is going up to Worcester because, again, there's that whole thing we talked about with potentially both Harrison and Early going up to the big leagues. So, yeah, I don't have a lot else to add on the pitching side. Again, like Jeremy, Wu Yelland, another guy that's a possible Rule 5 pick. He did have 3 walks this week in his 2 innings, but he also had 4 strikeouts. Cooper Adams had a save, 3 1/3 innings out of the bullpen with 3 strikeouts, no runs, 1 hit, no walks. You mentioned Holobetz was good.
We haven't talked about the biggest name yet, which is upsetting to me.
Okay. Is it Drew Earhart?
Yes, it is.
Who also won like the community award or something.
Yeah, Citizen of the Year, I think it was.
Citizen of the Year. And he clearly could have given a run for Hayden Mullins for Pitcher of the Year.
Yeah, he 1 inning, 1 hit, no runs, no walks. Obviously, he's not a pitcher, but he did throw 4 innings this year, or he has thrown 4 innings. Maybe he'll get another one. 3 hits, 1 run, no walks, no strikeouts. But he's now thrown 7 2/3 innings in his career. He threw 3 2/3 for Greenville last year. So in 7 2/3 innings, he has a 2.35 ERA, a 0.25 250 batting average against, and a 0.91 whip. He hasn't walked anyone in 7 2/3 innings, which is very impressive. I mean, he is one of those. He tends to throw like the 42-mile-an-hour eephus pitch types, but it's been an impressive streak for him so far. And then I did just have 2 other guys, Giovanni Cruz, 3 innings over in just 1 appearance, 2 hits. He did walk 4. He struck out 3. He's just got really electric stuff. He's someone I'm pretty surprised didn't get promoted to AAA during the year. Maybe he will to end the year, but 3.09 ERA, 173 batting average against, 134 whip, 72 strikeouts and 58 1/3. He hits 102 on the fastball. He threw 58 1/3 innings this year, which is a career high to this point. He only threw 29 2/3 last year, 21 the year before that, 13 2/3 the year before that. Like a massive jump up in innings for him, and he's been absurdly productive. A really good, I believe he was a minor league Rule 5 guy that they got last offseason. So just a big positive from him so far. And then Dalton, I don't think anybody mentioned Dalton Rogers. 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. Just obviously the 4 walks isn't fantastic, but just a ridiculously good stretch from him to end the year. He gave up 4 runs on 7 hits in 4 1/3 on August 8th. But after that, it has been 5 1/3, 1 run, 5 1/3, no run, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 innings, no run. And even the start before the August 8th start on August 1st, 6 innings, no runs on 4 hits, 7 strikeouts. So just a fantastic way for Rogers to end the season. 3.15 ERA between high A and double A, 3.63 and double A. He's been very good. He gets a lot of strikeouts. Walks have been a bit of an issue. He's got 55 and 100 innings, but he's also got 121 strikeouts. just another left-handed arm who made good waves this year. He was part of the 2023 or 2022 draft class. I think it was him and Noah Dean, who I felt like were linked for a while because it kind of seemed like they were following each other. And then we've talked about it before, but Rogers just really struggled last year in high A. So it's just, this has been such a fantastic bounce back year for him.
All right. I think that's probably a good place to wrap up then. No guess the prospect this week. We'll push that till next week because we're already closing in on the 2.5 hour mark. But we will end on a fun fact that Masataka Yoshida in every big league season he's played has exactly 2 sacrifice flies.
Good stat.
That's all, folks.
So with that, we're going to wrap it up on that note. For Jake and for Hunter, my name is Derek. As always, thanks for tuning in to the Minor League Show on this very special episode of the Minor League Show. And we will see you next time.